been systematically impoverished during the period of Rawlings's rule. It is not a point of view that has found very much favor in the parts of the world from where you come from, who have been pouring out an endless stream of how so many things wonderful were going on in Ghana.
Fellow citizens, you must be at the center of the change. The change we have voted for will have to start with each of us as individuals. We can start with little changes in our own individual attitudes and practices. The change can and should start now and with us as individuals. I ask you to be citizens, not spectators, citizens, not subjects, responsible citizens, building your communities and our nation. Let us work until the work is done.
Well, so that's President Akufo-Addo there. Over time, and how that fits into the current state of affairs as we're faced with as a country and as a people. Welcome back from that break. This is Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Now, before the day could end on Thursday, a number of the protesters who sought to go on a peaceful protest under the umbrella of Democracy Hub were arrested by the Ghana Police Service. Now, take a look at this.
Why? You don't know why. I'm just Go inside, just go inside. Go inside. Where are you going? Go inside. You're going to pass away. I'm going to go inside. Ever go inside. Go inside. Where am I going? Where am I going? Put your
interaction with some of the persons arrested, they tell us that their team, one of such teams which were divided, is being taken to the Kolebu police station, with some still here at the Accra Regional Police Command, some here at the Central Police Station, and some within the precinct of the Regional Police Command, where I saw with my own eyes they being asked to write statements where they were subsequently detained. Information that we've picked up from police personnel here suggests that they will be detained before they were even taken to the police station for whatever questioning and statement as it is that was expected of them.
We'll find a way. So that was day one when a number of these protesters were arrested. The police issued a statement that 49 of them had been arrested. Later, we got to find out that there were 56. At the end of the day, that's later in the evening of that same Thursday when they were released. 56 of them spread across about 8 police stations, because the police employed a strategy of separating them, but that did not break their resolve. Yesterday, even with the rains, they gathered again to send a strong message about what is happening in this country and what needs to be done to correct the ills that we are faced with as a people. Joining me in studio for this all-important conversation, Professor Ransford Gyampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon, the respected governance expert across the continent. I thank you, Prof. Gyampo, for joining us. Good morning.
Thanks. Good morning.
Also, Martin Pebble is private legal practitioner and also the convener of the Kumi Preko Reloaded demonstration. We wanted to bring back some memories of the Kumi Preko one by playing the video today. He was on the ground, as a matter of fact. He was one of the lawyers that came to the aid of these protesters on Thursday and was actually in the rain with them as well on Friday. For those of you who have been watching TV3, you saw that video yesterday. Lawyer, welcome. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Kasi.
Also, we have here private legal practitioner Bobby Banson. He's also a lecturer. Lawyer Bobby Banson, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Also joining us in studio is Professor Enoch Opoku Entry. He's a governance and leadership expert. He's written widely about the leadership and governance situation on the continent. Prof, welcome. Good morning.
Thank you, Alfred. I'm thrilled to be here.
Also joining us on Zoom is Professor Kojo Apieje Etia. He is a professor of law at the University of Ghana School of Law. Professor Etia, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay. We assembled top lawyers and top governance experts on the show this morning for good reason. Because we cannot keep doing the same things and expect different results. This is not the first time the Ghana Police Service has gone on this path. Let me start off by establishing what has been happening over the period. In fact, to chronicle, gentlemen, over the period, what the police has done in seeking injunctions at the last minute when people want to go on demonstrations and peaceful protests. Take a look. This was what has been happening over the period and why it raises fundamental questions about the police's own modus operandi in such instances in using the law to curtail the freedoms of people. This was, as at yesterday, the update they gave, that protesters were arrested for unlawful assembly. Nobody was manhandled or beaten, which we have videos to the contrary. It says all those arrested have been released, which we confirmed. Police acted in line with the law, and IGPs to meet organizers of the demonstration. Professor Tia, let me start off with you. Did the police act within the law as they have stated in this statement they issued?
I'm not sure they acted within the law. First of all, they said that they acted within the law, and by within the law, they are referring to the Public Order Act. But the Public Order Act that they were referring to did not give them the power to do what they did. They applied for the injunction. The injunction had not been issued. And even the injunction that they applied for was done in a manner that was a sort of underhand tactic just to frustrate the demonstrators, because the information was sent to them way back in August, but they didn't react until a day or two before the demonstration, before they went to court. And the court had not granted the injunction. They acted on their own powers, stood in the place of the court to intervene and prevent the demonstrators from embarking on their demonstration. So that is a clear violation of the Public Order Act. The only provision in the Public Order Act which deals with offenses are located in Section 9. And Section 9, if you read them carefully, the demonstrators didn't violate any of them. Information is supposed to be given. If it is not given, it is in violation. If you are asked to stop, and when you have not given information, it is a violation. Or you manufacture a weapon, or you hold a weapon in going on a demonstration, is a violation. And a few others. None of them, if you run through it, were violated by the demonstrators. So we don't know which law, which the police is relying on to say that the demonstrators violated the law. So if that is the case, then we have to go to the Constitution and look at the provisions on the rights that the demonstrators sought to rely on, which is the right to freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of movement. These rights are guaranteed in the Constitution. And the limitations on these rights, if you look at them carefully, the demonstrators didn't violate them as well. So the question is, where did the police find which law that they said the demonstrators violated? Thirdly, we can look at, even if we say that the demonstrators violated the law, they would become suspects or at this stage suspects. When a suspect is arrested, the suspect is entitled to certain rights which accrue to him in his or her position as a suspect. A right to a lawyer, right not to be molested, assaulted, or abused in any way, right to be taken to a police station in a decent manner, and then the right not to make any statement until the presence of a lawyer, and the right for you to know the charges on which grounds you were being arrested. All those were violated. So clearly, the police doesn't have a leg to stand on to say that they acted within the law. It's unfortunate that they would not admit to where they went wrong, and the fact that the IGP himself, I understand, ordered the police officers to release the suspects before the next day indicates where the police faulted. And so it is contradictory for them to come the next day and say that they acted within the law. If so, why did the IGP ask the demonstrators to be released? And the IGP should also come out more openly to admit and say that we acted wrongly, instead of just inviting the demonstrators for a chit-chat. It's a good idea that he is doing that, but the right thing has to be done. The law has been violated. The police are supposed to rather protect the demonstrators. They didn't do that, and so that is where the law is, and that is how the law should be applied.
I see. Now I want us to take you, because you made reference to the law, Professor Chair. This is what Article 21 of the 1992 Constitution says, and we're going to put that on the screenshot. And this is it. General fundamental freedoms. 1. All persons shall, the emphasis on shall, have the right to freedom of speech and expression, which shall include freedom of the press and other media, freedom of thought, conscience, and belief, which shall include academic freedom. C. Freedom to practice any religion and to manifest such practice. And D. Freedom of assembly, including the freedom to take part in processions and demonstrations. That is the specific position of the law on this matter. And so what the protesters sought to do is define quite clearly a prostitute within the remits of the law, is it not?
Exactly, yes. And Article 21 is interesting because I was talking about limitations to rights. Rights generally are not absolute. There are some limitations as to how you can enjoy it and when you can enjoy it and where you can enjoy it. But our constitutional provisions on those freedoms are interesting because in the first place, they don't provide any limitations as such until you go down somewhere where they try to put all of them together, general limitations. So it means that even our constitution is more liberal in terms of how you can enjoy these rights and freedoms. But if you want to go into the details, you refer to the fact that Ghana is a party to international human rights conventions like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which give clearly defined limitations as to how you could enjoy these rights. So within that remit, clearly the police acted in violation of the rights and freedoms of the people. These rights are best enjoyed where the executive or the government does not interfere in the enjoyment of these rights. That is, they're supposed to respect those rights. That's a duty, one of the threefold duties placed on the states. And so by putting those impediments in their way, and even going to the extent of arresting and molesting them, they don't have any basis to defend what they did.
Okay. Now, let me bring in Professor Nchi here on this, because you see, it cannot just be an issue of a matter of law, is it not? Because to the extent that this is a right, as enshrined in the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution were very clear in their minds that the dangers of citizens being silent, as against they having the opportunity to vent their spleen about what is not going right in this country, can rather be granted than putting a law in the Constitution to shut citizens up, isn't it?
Yes, thank you very much, Alfred. I think at this point, what we are trying to do is to manage hypocrisy. And the reason why we are managing hypocrisy is that we have three sides of the story: the protesters, the police, and then we're talking about the presidency, which was simply supposed to receive a petition from these protesters that, you know, we are petitioning against this. I was looking this morning at how the foreign media reported this case, and Al Jazeera said that Ghana police arrest 49, now we know it's 56, 49 people as high cost of living triggers streets protest. So that is how Al Jazeera reported it. And do we have high cost of living? Yes, that is true. This morning I passed through Jolu when I was coming, and I saw, in fact I cried this morning, and I gave them some money. These young guys, some had dog chains, some had yams that they are holding. They are all on the street. They put their things down in sacks of bags, and they started praying to their God, because that is what they are going to do for the day. And you can see a young, vibrant man holding these yams on the arms, trying to sell them so that he can make money, a living for the day. And the thing that came to my mind is that this country have no soul. Where is our soul? Where is our compassion? That our youth have to go through this. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. said that the day we see the truth and cease to speak is the day we begin to die. So wherein lies the truth of what is happening here? But leadership is so lonely at the top that when these things are happening, I've seen a lot of people, one guy called Charles Owusu also on one of the TV stations, saying that this whole demonstration was orchestrated by NDC. You see, we have a situation where people in Ghana, the problem is that we bottle people into MPP, NDC, anytime there's a debate, as if these political parties think for individuals. And that is absolutely wrong. A time comes when silence is betrayal. And we cannot be silent. I sit here and say that the 56 people that were arrested are heroes of our democracy. That's how democracy is supposed to be. Because if you look at...
that's a video of when they were released at night.
Yes, but they are all heroes of our democracy. I remember, you know, when we had the Tiwa by-election, you remember that? Mm-hmm. Yes, 12 individuals were hit by cars. I made plaque from US, 12, with all their names, and sent it. There was a function that a lot of ministers now went there, that they are Democrats, you know, they are heroes of democracy. This is what I'm looking for. People who will stand for the right and the freedom enshrined in the Constitution. The freedom is clear in Article 21D, that freedom of assembly, including freedom to take part in possessions and demonstrations. We remember what happened in 2010, Bouazizi. You know, Bouazizi, remember the Arab Spring, what happened? He was an apple seller, fruits and vegetable seller, and then going through all these difficulties, he set himself on fire. And what happened? The Arab Spring. But one lesson that I learned from the Arab Spring was the king of Morocco. When he saw that the youth are protesting, he disguised himself, went to the street, and started talking to people. Now, when you recognize him, then he will leave the place quickly. But he, you know, leaders should be on the ground so that they will feel what the ordinary Ghanaian is feeling. When he went on the ground and he would ask about the price of food, and when they were telling him that, he said, oh, I see what you guys are going through. So you can tell that our leaders are detached from the realities on the ground, what the people are going through. Demonstration, our current president is the chief or commander-in-chief of demonstration. Kumi preku, siemi preku, wiemi preku. You know, he was leading all this. I remember when we were in university, we did the Mobrowa struggle. And when we were doing the Mobrowa, yes, I was there. And I was at that time at University of Cape Coast. And when we were doing the Mobrowa struggle,
you all met at Novotel.
Yes, we did. And there will be a time. Yes, that is why I said that we are running in circles as a country. Yes, yes. And the police were there, the same thing happened. So when are we going to learn from history? But one thing that I saw was that when you see the police coming, a lot of the people you started with, when you turn back, some of them would have run away. Some people are not bold enough to say that wrong is wrong. But we know the law of categorical imperative. Wrong is wrong, no matter who is leading it or who is behind it. And what is happening now is wrong.
You see, and when you look at and Lawyer Bobby Banson, one of the issues the police raised, they released a number of statements, about 6 of them when I counted. The first one, before the Thursday, day 1, was that they had written to the law, in fact, the organizers, about the fact that they had sought an application to injunct the process, and not that the court had heard the case. There was an application, and the organizers indicated that they had not been giving any application. The police later in the day came to say that, look, we have served you through your lawyers because you elected your lawyers to correspond with us on your behalf. We got to find out that that was actually never done. But then the police showed up on Thursday to arrest these people. When we look at the rights as we have stated in Article 21, Professor Chia made mention of the Criminal Offences Act. And I want us to run through it. If the police can in any form find solace in this, and what happened on that day. Definition of unlawful assembly: when 3 or more persons assemble with intent to commit an offense, or being assembled with intent to carry out some common purpose, conduct themselves, it continues, in such a manner as to cause persons in the neighborhood reasonably to fear that the person so assembled will commit a breach of the peace, or will by such assembly needlessly and without any reasonable occasion provoke other persons to commit a breach of the peace. They are, that's an unlawful assembly. It is immaterial that the original assembling was lawful if, being assembled, they conduct themselves with a common purpose in such a manner. Whoever takes part in unlawful assembly shall be guilty of misdemeanor. And whoever takes part in unlawful assembly armed with any offensive weapon or missiles shall be guilty of second-degree felony. Was any of the persons armed with offensive weapons in there? Let me just because you were there. Were any of you armed with offensive weapons? Did you go to breach any peace and of the people within the neighborhood?
No. So let me make this clarification. At least not yesterday, which I was present. The Thursday one, I went to the police station. At the time of the arrest, I wasn't present. I only went to the police station to help, give legal assistance. So Thursday, no. But yesterday, where I was present, obviously, I mean, who was not even a stone. And then we had several, conversations with the police where we kept saying that we have nothing. That was the time we were trying to negotiate to go to the Jubilee House. And of course, at that time, they were willing to let us go. But eventually,
we'll get there.
Yes. So no weapons at all. And when we say weapons in this case, under our Criminal Offences Act, even a stone is a weapon. Anything apart from your your natural body that you can use to harm. So this pen is a weapon. You can kill with a pen. You just go for the jugular and the person is dead. Anything apart from, so your phone can be a weapon depending on the circumstances. Right. Yes.
I see. Well, so it's clear that the assembly was as peaceful as you can describe it. Nothing of a sort, that would classify here. So, Bobby Banson, would the police's basis of this gathering being an unlawful assembly fit within the remits of the law as we just put out on the screen?
Well, Alfred, good morning, and good morning to my seniors on the panel. I've been thinking through this since Wednesday when it started gaining a lot of public traction. And I've been asking several questions to situate what has happened in a particular context. The police have not always acted like this. We've had instances where, I'm sure with the demonstration, other demonstrations, the police have been very cooperative, for lack of a better word. And so it was interesting to get the vibe that the police are having a standoff with these protesters. So I was very curious, and I started interrogating some of the issues and asking questions. This is what I know, and Senior Martin, since he's been with the team, may correct if I yes, the Constitution provides for freedom of demonstration as we have it. If we put it in a historical context, we know that the Public Order Act before this one, the NRC one, actually stated that you would need the permission of the police before you can go on to demonstration. The MPP went to court, the MPP versus, I think, was it Inspector General of Police, and the Supreme Court struck out those provisions as being unconstitutional because they were in direct conflict with the provisions of the 1992 Constitution. Now, fast forward, post the 1992 Constitution, Parliament passed this particular one. And this Public Order Act, as we have it, states that, or does not require permission of the police. It only states that you notify the police with certain information, the day, the route, and whatever. And the Act says that the police has a responsibility when they are notified. And then the demonstrators also have a responsibility once there is an agreement. So if you read this Act, the new Act, it gives the impression that there's supposed to be a cooperation or a collaboration between the police and the prospective, let me describe them as prospective protesters, to ensure that the protest, no matter the purpose, no matter the import, does not breach the peace, the security, because, for example, you will not want people insisting that they would want to break the doors of, let's say, Jubilee House and walk in, or say they want to demonstrate against maybe what we are doing here at TV3, so they should be allowed to walk into the studio to come and stand here and then do the demonstration. Because like we say, and the very good, best human rights lawyer we have is here, one of the best, that your rights end when somebody's own begins. And so we must situate that in that context. Now, this is where the facts, as I have been informed, Mr. Pebu is here, may correct me. So indeed, the protesters sent a notice to the police service in August, informing them of the date. I think the first notice had only one day, 21st September 2023, as the day that they intend having the protest. Now, I am told that there was a first meeting between the protesters and the police, where discussions were held as to the modalities, the routes, and what have you. There was no agreement, as it were. Now, I'm also told that there was a last meeting on the 18th of September. Like I said, if I'm wrong, it can be, yes. So I'm told that there was a last meeting on the 18th of September, where there was supposed to be a consensus on the routes, the modalities, whatever, before the protest could proceed. Now, by the 18th of September, the days had been increased from 21st September as the only day for the protest to now 3 days. 21st. So the first notice stated 21st. That was the August one. Now, the subsequent notice gave 3 days. It means that the first notice has been overtaken by the subsequent notice. Now, the provision of the Public Order Act is that if the police has any reason why, and the law does not say the police can stop. It suggests that the police can only ask for a postponement or a modification of the routes just to ensure that public peace, public safety, and all those things are adhered to. Where there is no consensus or agreement between the police and the protesters, that is where we have the court. And previously, the police used to go for ex-parte orders. And then there was a decision by Justice Dennis that said you cannot obtain ex-parte orders under these circumstances.
So you did the case?
No, I didn't do it. Yeah, I didn't do it. And so if the police are not able to reach a consensus with the protesters, they are supposed to go to court. Now, file an application and serve the court sorry, and serve the protesters. That we have sat down, and in that application, you must demonstrate to the court why you think, that is the police, that the protest should be suspended or postponed, or the route should be modified. If the court is not satisfied with the police excuse, the police will refuse the application. But if the court is satisfied with the argument made by the police, or the protesters are not able to justify should I say, wash away, for lack of a better word, the concerns raised by the police in their affidavits in support of the application, then the court may make certain orders as it deems just. At all point in time, the rights of persons to demonstrate cannot be taken away except on grounds of law. That one is not in dispute. Now, and Prof. Etua said that the offense created in Section 9 of the Act is that if you do not communicate, that is, if the police informs the protesters that we have an issue with the route, or we have an issue with the day, and that we are asking you to postpone to so and so and so, and the protesters are required, I think it should be 48 hours or so,
48.
to respond to the police, whether they agree with the police or they do not agree with the police. If the protesters fail to give that response, then it is an offense under that Section 9. It's very clear there. And so, yes, even though the Constitution and Article 21 gives you certain rights, that right must be exercised in the context of the law that has been passed to govern that right. Remember, we say we are building a democracy. And democracy is not built on our own views or our own caprices or whims. It must be built in the context of the structures that our Constitution has provided and the laws that have been passed by Parliament, until those laws are set aside by courts that they are unconstitutional, as happened in the MPP versus IGP case. Now, if indeed there was a meeting on the 18th of September, and I'm saying if indeed, where there was communication from the police to the demonstrators, that, and I'm not saying the reason for the police asking for a suspension is legit. I'm not saying that. I'm not there. I'm not holding brief for police. I'm only trying to situate the discussion in that context. If indeed there was communication from the police to the protesters at the meeting on the 18th of September, saying that we do not agree with the route, or we think that the protest should be modified this way, A, B, C, D, E, F, then the protesters have a period of 48 hours from that date on the 18th. The 18th was a Monday, to communicate their disagreement with the proposals, or as it were, by the Ghana police. If the protesters did not do that, or do not do that, and they proceed to go ahead with the protest in accordance with the original plan, then there may have been an offense under Section 9. Now, again, like I said, these are facts that I wasn't there, so I cannot verify. Now, the 18th was a Monday. The Wednesday was a holiday. If the police, from what you have read in the news, filed the application on the 19th, because if the meeting was on the 18th, filed the application on the 19th of September, they are required, or they were expected to have at least served the protesters before the 21st. Because if they do not serve, and when I say serve, not media, publication, or news, the police issued a statement.
On the 20th.
Yeah, the statement does not constitute service. You must actually serve them personally. Or if you are not able to serve them personally, the law allows you to go through the process of ensuring substituted service. Now, if the organizers of the protest have not been served, it's different from their attention has been brought. That is not how it works. If they have not been served in accordance with law before the 21st of September, where they undertook the protest, then nothing stopped them from doing what they did. You may say that they may have flouted Section 9 by not notifying the police that they disagree with the outcome of the meeting on the 18th. But there was no law that restrained them from doing what they did by that day. Now, that is my understanding of the facts and my appreciation of the law.
In fact, there's not to interrupt you, there's an affidavit of service that's going around on social media, which sort of corroborates all the things that you were talking about. We'll put that on the screen shortly.
Yeah, but there's a huge problem with it.
And in fact, that's one of the issues that we'll get into, because even on the face of it, it says that the said application then was done on the 19th of September. The certification of the true copy of it, at least as per the signature of the Registrar of the High Court, the Criminal Court, was actually signed on the 22nd. The second day, which was yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So
an affidavit of service.
Yes.
That they had served.
Yes,
I have not seen it.
You see, you are a civil procedure group. The defective that you see that under Order 7, you know, sometimes a lawyer can undertake to receive
yes.
This one, the defect is that they think the protesters had said, go and give it to our lawyers. But if the lawyer hasn't consented, and I assume him, the police wanted to
I will not even. I have always had a problem with that rule. Well, because my position, I think Order 7 rule somewhere 9 or so 12 states that a lawyer may undertake at the registry of the court to accept processes on behalf of a party. Now, per the provisions of the Legal Professions Act and the rules of court, you are not a lawyer on record until you have filed notice of appearance or appointment of a lawyer. Now, if you give that undertaking, it is to the registrar. So you, the lawyer, must walk to the registry of the court and take that process. That is my understanding. Otherwise, you would have situations.
Because you don't mention appearance, I'm thinking that the letter like Justice Namenuvo did, except that his contempt is not covered. It says, where a lawyer undertakes in writing to accept service of a writ on behalf of a defendant, the writ shall be deemed to have been duly served on that defendant when served on the lawyer. So,
but senior, in practice, if a writ or in the context of this discussion, such an application is filed, how will the client or the party who is directly affected by that application know of the existence of that application? Otherwise, if we go by this, you would have situations where people will say, oh, I read in the news that there is a process that has been filed against me. And so I am instructing Senior Martin Kpebu to go for it. Now, where do you go for it? You go to the registry of the court, and then you take a copy of the process. A bailiff cannot come to the lawyer's office and say that I am coming to give it to you because I called Alfred. And Alfred said, oh, my lawyer is Martin Kpebu, so go and give it to him. And otherwise, you would have the Ghana Cables situation, where in 1996 or so, a lawyer entered appearance, obtained the process, the matter went to the Supreme Court, and the party came to say, I don't know that lawyer. In fact, I was in prison. A very sensitive, it's
and
reported.
This one, the more fundamental thing is, let's quickly add is that this rule we are talking about is talking about rate of summons and petition. Like petition, we are talking about divorce or other petitions, election petitions in the High Court and then rate of summons. But this thing that was the police are doing, we call it originating summons. This one is originating motion. So this type is not expressly provided here. So until we get a court decision,
I think this provision is problematic. Because you would have
the police cannot rely on this.
No. I never advise this process to go through, because if tomorrow the party comes to say that I don't know, and there are cases reported,
says it must be in writing. The lawyer, not the party saying that go and give it. It says the lawyer should write.
Now, if the lawyer writes, there was a case reported. I think it originated from Kumasi, an estate case. Where a lawyer undertook this process. One of the parties again came. It ended up at the General Legal Council. Because the party says that I didn't instruct you. Where did you hear it from? He said, oh, I know of you. I was involved in a matter. A musician, a very popular musician, organized an event. And there was an incident where the stage collapsed. And one of the persons who was injured sued the musician. Now, a lawyer wrote a letter to the registry, took the process, filed the defense, then the victim's lawyer filed an application for summary judgment based on it. Then the musician got wind of it. Then he came and said, but you have a lawyer. He said, I don't know him. Yes. And the High Court judge insisted that the other lawyer comes to inform who gave him the instructions to write the letter. So I always advise, go and serve the party. Let the party give it to the lawyer and let the lawyer enter appearance. But your proof of service will indicate that you have served the party. Because service on the lawyers may be problematic. But be that as it may, if indeed these processes were not followed through by the police service, then they have breached certain provisions of the law. And also,
in that case, what happened to the police?
Well,
that's the question we should be asking
ourselves. If indeed there was also that meeting on the 18th of September, and the police communicated their misgivings as to the route and all of that, and the protesters also did not communicate to the police that we disagree with your position, then they may have also flouted the law. Now, the second, like you said, what happens? Definitely, if the reports of assault and what have you, people's phones being seized, definitely it's against the law. Because there are court decisions that say that you do not have a right to take a mobile phone of a suspect or an accused person except with a court order. So if you arrest somebody, you cannot take his mobile phone.
In fact, there's confirmation that the mobile phones were... There's confirmation that the mobile phones were taken.
And then they would ask you to open the password for all those things. That is against the law. And so in as much as we are trying to build a democracy, we are trying to communicate the misgivings. I don't think anybody on this panel would deny the economic or the social challenges that our country is faced through. But we must also be mindful of the laid down provisions of the law, which governs how we would have to exercise our fundamental human rights. Otherwise, so like they say, as you are advising the cat, you advise the mouse as well. Otherwise, you would have situations where people would wake up from their homes and say that I want to walk to Jubilee House and demonstrate because I'm entitled to.
But they're entitled to. Jubilee House is not off limits.
And I just use it as an example. Without going through the processes, because I'm sure that it was based on legal advice that they even wrote to the police in the first place. It was based on legal advice. So they know that it must be exercised that way. And so we must be able to criticize the police in the way they handled it. If I may just end on this. Yes, there was an interesting part of the last statement. I hope that was the last statement issued by the police, where it said that at the instance of the IGP.
Yes, they said that that was the meeting with the protesters yesterday, that they said that the IGP has personally intervened.
That was interesting for me, because
I honestly didn't understand.
Yes, we are dealing with the police service as an institution. Does it mean that all the things that they did from Thursday was without the IGP didn't know?
Or not accept?
Well, I also saw.
Does it mean that
I also saw this statement that they said that. I also saw this statement from the police that we do not take delight in preventing petitions, and protests. But in the case of the venue, the Jubilee House being a security zone.
Okay, so that is also something that must be interrogated. Whether the IGP is saying that all that was done was without his knowledge, he was not, there's a word the security people use, briefed before, during, and after.
And that will show that he's not in charge.
Yes, that is a problem. Or there's an attempt to deliberately dissociate the IGP from what had happened. That was my takeaway from that last.
An interesting derivation, in fact, and you're not alone in this, because when the statement was issued, a number of questions were raised about it. But it's on the last point, that I bring you in here, because if the police's first and second statement has the description of the Jubilee House in there, that's what I want to find out what the position of the law is. If you look at the first statement that the police issued, they said that the Democracy Hub sought press release, a convenience dated 20th September 2023, claiming that the group has not been served with the court process to prohibit them from holding their intended demonstration at the Jubilee House. 2023 goes on, and it says that the vicinity of the Jubilee House is a security zone. Now, is there any law that states specifically the vicinity of the Jubilee House being a security zone? I'm talking about the vicinity.
Not the one that...
The police statement categorically State vicinity?
Not one that I have seen. This thing has come up before. They should show us which law. I've not seen any specific law that states so. No, if you want to do it like that, there has to be an ally, okay, or the police, the national security, okay, the powers that they have. They would then delimit and list this, all of this ahead, so that citizens can access. It won't happen in this case. You can't just get up ex post facto and then say that, oh, Jubilee House is a security zone, so you don't go. No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And let's check. It's not only in Ghana. Look, you go to the US, though recently they've had to cordon off. For over 100 years, people have been demonstrating in front of the White House. 2019, I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. Yeah, in the year 2019, we went to the the White House.
That's what democracy is about.
Yes, people were protesting. And there was even this guy, he's been there for about, I've forgotten the number of years, but well over 15 years. He sleeps there. People are always picketing, demonstrating, holding night vigils, and the rest. So, but what they do is that when we say the White House, you look at it, it doesn't mean just right in front of it. There's a bit of a distance. So that is it. So the vicinity there, that's why I said there's this shaggy, bearded man for over 15 years. That's where he sleeps.
Yes.
Advocating for Africa, the reparations, the way this white
every night he's there, every night,
etc. So he's constantly there. He will tell you about Kwame Nkrumah, tell you about Haile Selassie, making the point that the reparations. You see the reparations the president is talking about at the UN. And somebody who sleeps there over 15 years, he's been there. So what the point we are making is that it can't be. We haven't seen any law which categorically states that Jubilee House is a security zone. You can't even just state it too broadly like that. It has to have.
So because it said the vicinity, but if you look at the definition of vicinity, well, like the area near or surrounding a particular place. So in the context of this definition, even here, TV3
TV3 is now a security zone. Yes.
Excellent.
Of Jubilee House.
Excellent. There is a court case. There is a certain court case. This word vicinity. Lawyers know it. After say, you see, they are saying around.
So you can't come close to us because we are in a security zone.
And then what about the middle?
Case.
What about the middle? There is some. What about the middle itself? So, as I've said, I'm not aware. The last time Caleb Kuda was brutalized by the rogue national security officers, we did those searches. We argued it. We didn't see specifically. So, and as I said, it's too late in the day to now say Jubilee House. Yes, when you say security zone, we understand it in a certain context, but not too broadly. When you say meaning we will not enter, you can't enter, say that you want to go and hold your demonstration within the Jubilee House fence.
The protesters at any point, because you are one of the lawyers for them, did they say at any point that they wanted to go into the Jubilee House?
No. And there is one of the communications that specifically made it clear.
That's what the police are saying.
No. There's one of the communications that made it clear that we just want to go near. You see, we are just
quoting what the police were saying. So
yes,
never
that's
the case.
False. Not to enter. Who would say? I mean, I wouldn't even come and sit here to support such a thing. We just want to be close enough so that you see, you would see Jubilee House in the background. They even gave me at a point, I was saying that 50 meters is reasonable. 50 meters to the Jubilee House is reasonable. So somewhere around the basic school, you know, the school, that school before. Yes, 50 meters.
Christ the King, I think that's
or maybe even Christ the King, so that you get Jubilee House in the background. And yesterday, at a point, the police were willing, when the rain was beating all of that, they were now willing to
They were willing to allow you to
go in front, yes. But at a point, there wasn't agreement, and I finally got tired. You know, having been, I'm sure you even see my nose is blocked. Having been in the rain for 2 hours later, actually, it was scary. That, you know, when the temperature drops below a certain degrees, you get trouble. So man had to leave, right? So back to your question, there's no law today that any lawyer can pinpoint and show here. It says that Jubilee House. And even it's not even possible to just say the vicinity. No, it would be properly defined. So maybe where we can go to is that you're looking at the Section 1 of the Public Order Act, where they're saying that if your venue can cause danger to public security, public safety, public order, then the police will ask you to change. So there are broad, so that is the law that we all know, that if somebody were to say, I want to enter Jubilee House to demonstrate, obviously that would be preposterous. Nobody, I'm not sure any of us here will support such a move. So those are the things. So it's a section 1 of the Public Order Act that they can stand on, that certain places there's likely to be a breach of the peace. There will be issues of public safety, issues of public order, public defense, you see. So don't go there. That is what I can mention about the venue.
I see, does the police's conduct in any way find any justification in any law that you have seen?
Good. So this is where I depart with my colleague Bobby a bit. No. Bobby, you see where you were saying that the failure to provide that information could be an offense. So I'm thinking that in the context, the law says that if the person doesn't provide it within 48 hours, your remedy is what? Go to court. Yes. So, and you see the police did well. So you won't be relying. So that offense, nobody would even invoke it. Do you have it here so that we even situate it in context? My internet is not working so that I could read the offenses section. You won't use it. Then otherwise, as soon as you do that, then it's a right to demonstrate that has been clawed back totally. No. Meanwhile, this right, let's even make one fundamental point. You see, please, when we talk about these rights, it's not even the Constitution that grants those rights. So, please, viewers, let's get this point. The rights are not, yes, it's not the Constitution that grants the right to demonstrate, your right to move, your right to free speech. No. It's not the Constitution that. You were born with them. Excellent. You were born with them. Inalienable. Inalienable. It attaches to your person.
So you talk about section 1. Okay.
Yes, go to 9, the various offenses that, so the failure to provide the information, right?
So, you can proceed.
So I'll proceed. So these rights, once you are born with them, it can be that, I have a right to speak. You ask me a question, I say I won't speak. I'll go to court. You can't say that because you haven't spoken, then you are criminalizing it. No. You can't criminalize speech. You ask a question, I say I won't answer. Then you want to criminalize that. No, that will be through the back door. So that particular, sometimes Parliament, they will make laws, there will be mistakes. We all very much understand. You see, nobody's even been prosecuted that you didn't provide that particular information.
So that's why I said it's good they went to court.
Yes.
So that's why I say if there is a disagreement, they cannot take the law into their hands.
Excellent.
They must go to court.
Yes.
That is what I said.
So I'm just reinforcing that so that the police next time will not be thinking, oh, the protesters didn't write back to us. So then that's the.
There cannot be a law on their.
No.
They need to.
So you go. Section 1, subsection 5 says that if there cannot be an agreement, then the police will go to court because the police have told you, change it.
That's an organizer requested under subsection 4 to postpone or relocate the holding of a special event shall within 48 hours of the request notify the police officer in writing of the willingness to comply.
Yes, good. Then the next subsection says that if you don't, then the police will go to court. So that's the remedy. Not to come and say you didn't answer, so you've committed an offense.
So that means the two legs that the police are standing on, they say that unlawful assembly and then violation of the Public Act order, they are all not true.
They are not true. That's a ruse because the law has provided the procedure how to deal with this. And it's clear that these are applicants before you who said, they are not even applicants. These are notifiers. They've notified you that they are going on a demonstration. You've engaged them. Then they say you say they should stop. They say they won't stop. Then on the third day, they appear there. Obviously, they've appeared there in order to what? Exercise their rights. So when you go and say unlawful assembly, that's wrong. Something that I don't need a right to come out and say I want to demonstrate. How can you go and use unlawful assembly as the reason to arrest somebody? Then it's just that the police are now arrogating upon themselves
powers.
Yes, and to say that you need a permit. Yes, that's what they mean. The Constitution has been clear. You see, Bobby referred to the MPP versus IGP case. Under the previous law, you needed a permit. We saw that no, under the Constitution, and thankfully, even this government, MPP party, that went to court. That
the president was part of
that
argued.
Yes, he said no, we don't need a permit to demonstrate. It's inalienable. You are born with it. It stays with you, right? But because of security reasons, just notify the police so that they can come provide security. And if, as Bobby said, and it's true, if they say they won't come, you still have a right to go. Except that if you go and you are committing crimes or something happens, say that one there, you also pay the price for it, right? So once these are people, there's a certain trajectory there's been communication back and forth. Then on that day, the demonstrators appear there that they want to embark on their demonstration. You can't go and pull unlawful assembly from somewhere and say you want to slap them. The police just goofed. Look, they just goofed, and you see, they retrogressed our democracy. I don't know why they were so much in a hurry. I don't know whether IG Dampari, because of the the parliamentary committee thing, is shaking his confidence. You see, that's why when people were praising him from the beginning, I said, by Ghana, we like this things too much. The man is just started. Let him run. It's when he's finished his course, or maybe he's done 4 years, 5 years on blemished record, and that's when he can start singing praises. You see, NDC, they were so happy just a few months ago just because of Asenov. Today, you see, our right to demonstrate has been taken away. You see here, over the past 2 weeks, when you want to talk, hey, they don't want you to talk. No, IG Dampari, you see. It's not even been 2 months, or no, it's not been 4 months after Asenov. You see the trouble? Because look, what happened on Thursday? Oh, no. It just retrogressed us too much. IG Dampari, this one, you see the GJA has brought a statement that he should, the police service should apologize. Yes, IG, this one you have to. You must give that apology because... I'm not seeing tax statement. Thank you. Prof Jampo is here. Oh, you see, IG, your friend Prof Jampo is here. Jampo slaughtered me last week. Okay. No, I mean, possibly, yes.
If you were slaughtered, you wouldn't have been alive now,
yes,
right?
You see, Jampo slaughtered me last week when I tried to say that there is chronism and people are disquiet and dissatisfaction in the police service, and so the committee should be expanded to the mandate of the parliamentary committee should be expanded. Very good. But Jampo said, no, you are doing a fantastic job, you should go on, blah, blah. So at least, if not for anybody at all, for Professor Jampo, you should come and render an apology. That look, people of Ghana, I made a mistake. And it's normal. You're a fine man. It's just that you're human. You will make mistakes. When you did the yeoman's job in Asenov, yes, I praise you for it. But as soon as this disquiet in the police service, Mamiti West faction, COP Menses faction, and the other problems you've had came up, you see, I said, no, let's go into it because it will help you. Right. You mean well, but naturally, you are human. So the way you progress our democracy on Thursday, please, that one, the minimum you can do is to come and render an unqualified apology. Okay. Because now you've given a big blow on our democracy. Big blow. You see, Al Jazeera, even some of the journalists who were beaten and arrested, BBC correspondents, Thomas Nadi, AP correspondent. Can you imagine? Associated Press. What do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing?
There have been previous instances, Prof. Jampo, and I'll bring you in here because we tried chronicling a number of instances where there have been these injunctions at the last minute by the Ghana Police Service after the organizers of protests and demonstrations have engaged them over a period, even before the set date. In June 2022, the injunction against Fix the Country demonstration, August 2023, the injunction against the minorities demonstration to occupy the Bank of Ghana, and then this one. In fact, in December 2022, there was an injunction against the Arise Ghana demonstration and so on. In their bid to enforce the law, what are they doing that also eventually tends to infringe on the rights of people, that also would lead to the silence that creates the platform for other events that we all do not want to see?
Well, thank you. I think the experts have spoken, and this borders more on law before then you can talk about governance issues. Over the years, and I want to say even since 1992, the police as a unit has always attempted to use the legal processes to frustrate the expression of the right to dissent, which demonstration is also part. Demonstration is one of the mechanisms that can be used to express the right of dissent. And oftentimes we hear the police quickly, upon hearing that people want to go on demonstration, they quickly want to go to court. And the approach that they use, the tactics that they use, I mean, sometimes they should be a bit innovative and ingenious, but we all can see through that the kinds of things that they do are the kinds of things that are meant to just frustrate people who lawfully want to go about the expression of their dissent. And I want to believe that if this particular incident happened, they will learn. And take note that we've come a long way as a people in our quest to climb higher the ladder of democratic progression, and now people can read in between the lines when you are doing some of these things. And so I want to believe that they will learn. Because, see, the idea of resorting to tactics to express, to frustrate the expression of dissent through demonstration, in my view, speak to a police service that appear to be quite ignorant about democracy and its tenets and human freedoms enshrined not only in our constitution but also within international conventions, human rights and human freedoms that are inalienable. When we say they are inalienable, it means you cannot strip human beings of those rights. Otherwise, they do not become human beings. So, if we are told that the IGP personally intervened to ensure the release of those who are arrested, I would respectfully urge the IGP that the intervention is not enough. The buck stops with him.
But what does it even mean? That personally intervene?
Well, I want to believe that maybe, you see, I think in their dealings with the police, they dealt with the regional command. So, if it's intervened, see, the point is, if it had gone well, we would have praised the IGP. If it didn't go well, the buck stops with him. And so, like Martin said, a certain apology to the people of Ghana would help. And then beyond the apology, let there be palpable interventions aimed at socializing the psyche of the today Ghana police officer about democracy, human rights, and the need for them to be respected. Let there be palpable interventions about democracy, human rights, and the need for the police to also act in a manner that does not relapse or retrogress our democratic gains, particularly in the sight of many people across the globe. Our democracy has been hailed. We are noted to be a democracy or a country that is inching higher in terms of climbing the ladder of democratic progression, and we are celebrated. But some of these acts, you know, rolls us back, they set us back. And so I think that apology would suffice. And Mr. Dampare, you know, everybody in Ghana knows that I like you. Everybody in Ghana knows that I like you. But you see, these people who were manhandled, in fact, they are the very people who have made it difficult for the subversive attempt at torpedoing the IGP from becoming a reality. Now the powers that be know that the man has popular support, and so it will be difficult for you to do to take him out. And so these people have supported the police service, they've supported the IGP, and if they want to go on a peaceful demonstration, I think we don't have to treat them the way we have done. And why were they treated the way they were treated? You see, my understanding was that they wanted to go to the Flagstaff House, and then, like you guys said, it's been described as a security zone. But the point must be made that, you see, human anger, human hunger, human disappointment,
anger and hunger,
human anger, human hunger, human disappointment, and human disenchantment arising out of bad governance would make the description of certain places as security zones inconsequential and annoying. Okomo Dinipa was a security zone. When people are angry and they are hungry and they want to express it, you are describing a place as security zone that they shouldn't go there. What happens at the Jubilee House? Is that a place where the Minister of Finance runs the economy? Is that a place where the Education Minister oversees our educational sector? What happens at the Jubilee House? Isn't it just a place that President Akufo-Addo sits and he's briefed and then people are there and they work? Don't we work in our offices? If Jubilee House is a security zone, then University of Ghana campus is more of a security zone because we produce nation builders there. We work, we do more work. How many parts
that's a good analogy.
Apachiki zone we have there?
That's a good analogy.
What do they do? The foot soldiers who are always picketing the foot soldiers who are always there, when you people go there, they are begging them for money and what do they do there? Staffing the area with party foot soldiers makes it a security zone. Look, with the greatest, listen, with the greatest of respect, President Akufo-Addo sits and governs there. The chief of staff and his appointees and all, they sit and they take decisions. But I'm saying that decision-making centers in Ghana for governance, you have so many of them. Okay, so you cannot just describe security. And in any case, what were the people going to do at the Jubilee House? Were they going to stage a coup? Were they going there to be throwing stones? No, they said they wanted to go on a peaceful march around that area. And so in my mind, you see, it's the police that actually worsened the situation. If they had been guided to the Jubilee House peacefully, I'm sure this thing would have ended. But trying to stop them and prevent them, trying to be arrested and all that, caused all the traffic and all the things that happened to ordinary people who ideally wouldn't have even been interested in what was going on. I mean, we extended the right to demonstrate now also led to the violation of other people's rights because of the way and manner the police handled the situation, you know, on the first day. But yesterday, I want to believe that because a lot of people spoke against it, and because UG, we issued a statement condemning that, it compelled the police to be behaving civilly, you know, towards the demonstrators. And I am commending the demonstrators. I commend them because you see, we were becoming a docile population, okay. And if politicians know that, oh, as for these people, they are polarized on partisan grounds and they will always find a way to defend even what is bad. If this has gotten into the cycle of many politicians, and so then they perpetuate bad governance on us. But you see, I like what Prof said, that you see, any attempt to describe any form of dissent as orchestrated by the NDC is an incompetent analysis or an analysis of a situation. Okay, even if it's coming from the NDC, are they not Ghanaians? Okay, so I commend the demonstrators for what they did. And what won my heart was the fact that they defied the rains. And they were there. Martin, I saw you. I said, oh, this is my man. They defied the rains. And you see, for them to defy such heavy rains, I mean, it rained very heavily.
No joke.
For them to defy such heavy rains and to sustain the momentum of the demonstration should communicate in a certain language to the powers that be. Once upon a time, there was this General Gay in Ivory Coast that his people wanted to get him out. Whilst they were demonstrating against him and heading towards where he was, soldiers started shooting. The more they shot, the more the people defied the bullets and they went. And so the president, the head of state there, had no choice than to flee. I'm telling powers that be, see, bad governance, corruption, economic mismanagement, and challenges that are felt so much in the life of the people, if we don't see drastic interventions aimed at tackling them, would make people behave the way they did yesterday. They will defy all the odds and they will do all manner of things aimed at making those powers that be uncomfortable. And so if we don't want this situation, let us begin to put in place concrete measures. It appears that those in power now, if you look at their conduct and their comportment and their behavior, it appears they don't care. I mean, we are living, so we don't care about what you do and all that. But you see, President Akufo-Addo picked this country at a time where we're intact. It is his responsibility. First, at the minimum, at the barest minimum, it is his responsibility to leave leave the country for us intact. We don't want a country where, because of the attitude of the politicians of being not concerned about what we say, we would build a citizenry who would always be resorting to some of these things that brings about chaos and confusion. You look at them, some of them are saying we want to break the 8, but behind the scenes, they are doing all that they are doing in parking out. Yes. They are parking out. They are parking out. Yes. So if you are tired, just come and tell Ghanaians that, look, we have another year, but we think that we cannot continue, and so let us see what we can do if you have an interim government. But the attitude that they show demonstrates to me that now they don't care. You can say whatever you want to say, you can do whatever you want to do. We are on our way out. But that is not the contract that we signed, the social contract that we signed with them. And so, number one, let me sign in summarizing or in ending, let me say that the police should review their notes in terms of their attitude and response to demonstrators anytime demonstrators serve notice. They gave you 1 month notice. You don't wait for 1 month and a day before the demonstration to want to pull a fast one on them. Police officers, please, Ghanaians are discerning. We are wise. I know you're also wise. I wanted to say we are wiser than you, but we are wise. So don't try to pull a fast one on us. And I call on my own big brother IGP to offer a certain apology to Ghanaians, and then wait. And then I'm also saying that I want to commend the demonstrators for gingering us up, for defying the odds to communicate in a certain language to the powers that be. And those who are parking away and they are still telling us that they want to break the 8, we have seen you.
Professor in a minute. Yes, Professor Nchi.
Yes, you know, governance goes. Let me acknowledge. Governance goes.
Professor Nchi, a bit. Let me acknowledge that lawyer Bobby Banson has had to leave us for an emergency situation. So that's just to put it on record.
Governance goes hand in hand with leadership, and if you see what is happening now, you know, key individuals have not shown leadership in this. I think the IGP should not sit behind the desk and behave like his hands are tied. That is not what is supposed to happen. He was supposed to be there with the protesters. That's what leadership is about. Your presence really matters. Be with the protesters and then talk to them. That would have helped. The president, you know, he should put himself in the shoes of all these protesters. That when he was protesting at Kumi Prekum, Wiemi Prekum, NCME Prekum, all those things, what was he expecting? That somebody will take his petition and listen to what he was trying to say. The same thing has happened again, and that's how karma works. So in your time, people are protesting. The president should have been there, call the leaders of the protests, and say that, bring your petition to me, and I will work on that. That is how leadership works, so that we all have peace. As we talk now, we don't have peace in our neighborhoods because people are angry and hungry, and then the leaders are behaving as if nothing is happening. That shouldn't be the case.
Indeed.
Yes, one comment. So, you see, he said leaders are behaving as if they've not seen, they've not heard. Prof. Jampo also made the point. That's how come last week I was making the point that the president, I was trying to liken the president to Oman Pam, and then some of my fans and other people. Yeah, so let me clarify. So the context is this. So you just said Professor Nchi and you heard Professor Jampo all refer to the point that the president is so intransigent. It's as if he doesn't listen to radio, he doesn't listen to TV. Meanwhile, by law, there is a National Security Act. The national security must listen to radio and TV and brief him. So whether he wants to hear or not, national security must monitor radio, TV, and brief him. So he must hear. So that's why I was trying to talk about last week.
So there's lack of awareness. It seems that he's not aware.
To say that you were insulting.
No, not insulting him. Do you know President Nixon used to be called Tricky Dick? Have you heard that word? Tricky Dick.
So it's not that. I just wanted you to put that on record.
So I need that because you have clarified, but I wasn't so happy. I mean, we've been criticizing President Akufo-Addo,
so that's put on record.
Your respect is really important. But the leaders should know.
Okay.
I
think
that's true. But the leaders should know that power belongs to the people, not them.
Point has been made.
Yes.
So Lawyer Martin Kpebu, that's just to put it on record and with that clarity.
Yes, thank you.
He apologized. He apologized.
Yes. And when we intervene
28 minutes to the top of the hour, and gentlemen, hold on. Okay.
No. Selective listening, right?
This is key point. On TV3, we're live on 3FM 92.7, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. This leads us, in fact, to our next issue. But there was a quick one before, just in a minute. These persons whose rights were also, in fact, who were abused, and also the police asking for evidence. What remedies are there for them? In a minute, before we go.
Yes. So, and then also, so just 30 seconds. See, I've just been following Edgar Redu and co. Edgar Redu used to be host of Joy FM.
He's an insurance expert.
And then also insurance. Yes, they are all saying it. That IG must apologize. So, yeah, they are all saying it. And that the police even saying that the demonstrators shouldn't come out to demonstrate. That is very offensive. Yeah, that's Edgar Redu for you. So please, IG Dampare, listen, you have to sit with your big men and come out quickly.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So the remedy, yes, to the extent that the police beat Vanessa Boateng, Bridget Otu, lawyer Roxon, then there's a second lawyer who was also beaten. Yes, under the law, they have the right to sue. Yes, if you assault somebody, you have the right to sue. If you unlawfully imprison somebody, that's the arrest. You have a right to sue. The unlawful arrest that went on, contrary to Article 14. All these ones, the people have a right to sue. And so I'm sure in the coming days and weeks, they would look at it and decide which way they want to go, because that is what the Constitution grants us. There's a right. So once the right is being abused, Article 33 says that you can go to the High Court when somebody abuses your right. And there are many cases. Maybe I should use this one, the Abna Pokuya Aka, because we discussed it 2 weeks ago here. The one ADB shamefully dismissed the employee for voicing concerns about the way they didn't use the bank's money well, and they just thought they could clamp down on her and then dismiss her. She sued, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and she won. ADB was asked to pay some money. Of course, it wasn't too much, because the Supreme Court said that when you use you come in through your constitutional rights. In that case, they don't give you too much money. If you want a lot of money, then go under the law of torts. That's where you are compensated. But if you sue using the constitutional provisions, that one, it gives something more or less nominal. Yes, so look at it. It says that the High Court, it says, Article 33 clause 1, it says, where a person alleges that a provision of this Constitution on the fundamental human rights and freedoms has been or is likely to be contravened in relation to him, then without prejudice to any other action that is lawfully available, that person may apply to the High Court for redress. Okay. So that's Article 33 for it. Then it goes on. There are more provisions. So fantastic. The Constitution provides that you may sue. And apart from the Constitution, as I said, there's also the law of torts. Law of torts. You
talk about the law of torts, and I know that you, Lawyer Martin Kpebu, is an expert in that, having lectured on the law of torts.
I don't like the title expert at
many ways. But you deserve it, because obviously the people who have gone through your hands at the law school teaching the law of torts, we know exactly what the impact that you've had. But anyway,
Alfred, you know, all great men were teachers. All great men on our planet were teachers.
Indeed, and that's why we have all teachers here, teaching the people. This is key point. Now, the next issue is not very far away from the matters that bother us as a people, and the things that have to be done to ensure that we don't keep doing the same things and expect different results. This week, we had a document, the court document filed by, beg your pardon, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, disclosing that the sacked former sanitation minister has an undeclared real estate business. That's number one. The next that we found out in that court document was that the cash in Cecilia Dapa's house was craftily concealed in polythene bags, clothes, and envelopes, and buried in obscure places. That $590,000 and the over 2 million cedis that was found in their Belenque house. It wasn't just in a box or something. According to the OSP's court documents filed, these were found in polythene bags hidden in obscure places. Apart from that, we also got to know in the said document that Cecilia Dapa's the deceased brother, his account is still active, sending money to Cecilia Dapa. Now, it sounds absurd. It's in the document.
Yes,
it's in the document. So these are the issues that happened, and Lamatic People has been following this thing quite closely. So right after this quick break, there's some exclusive detail on how things are playing out that we will talk about on the show. Stay with us. This is Key Point. We'll be back shortly.
Just close the doors, and you're in a world of your own. Travel is not just about the destination, it's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Jackpot of the week. Place bets and hit the jackpot. Log into the 1xBet account. Click on the Take Part button, place bet, and take part in the jackpot draw. Give your luck a chance. Use promo code to get a bonus on your first deposit.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be addictive.
Rasta. Rasta, Rasta. What does Rasta really mean to the people? In today's episode of Rasta Vibration, this is what we're looking at. Rasta, what does it mean to you?
To me, Rasta means real.
Rasta to me means artistic.
Rasta to me means sport.
Rasta to me means trailblazing.
That's what people like you and I do every day.
What?
Where you there?
I do. Listen, Rasta, I have a bone to pick with you. Some of the things that you say on air, though, are morally, ethically, and politically.
Kids are watching.
Sit down, my youth.
Respect. Rasta means the motherland, Africa.
Real artistic, sporty, trailblazing African choco malt drink.
This advert is FDA approved.
It's great to be connected on a plane, but not all the time.
He raped me! No, stop it, don't do it. No, stop it. No. I poisoned him.
The difference between a sinner and a saint is that the saint has a past and the sinner a future. There is a shoulder that does not discriminate, an ear that listens without a mouth, and a heart that listens with empathy. Here on Confessions, we believe that everyone has a story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And together with my seasoned guest, we make the conversation relevant for our lives today and the lessons therein. Confessions, the safe haven for all your secrets.
Confessions shows on Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
MTN.
Feel adrift as you transition into a new stage of your life. The future seems like a blank space until you discover the passion within. The canvas of the future is yours to paint. Welcome to a world of opportunities. Heritage Christian College, offering world-class university education, training compassionate entrepreneurial leaders.
Waka Ponchina bo. Waka Ponchina ya big go.
Mabagana. No, Mabagana. Who this guy do have here? They get their crap go free. Mabagana. Hey, I do this in here.
Onye mi bako shot senya.
Hey, woman, baby, I'm cool about what say.
Ofa, this is Bigo Cola. Tasting here big.
This is so refreshing. I'm a bigote. You've never changed in value.
Oh no. Let's make the party begin.
Let's go.
Bigo Cola. Bigo Cola. You don't want them. Pick them. I don't want them. Cola for the party. Bigo for your hunger.
Enjoy the big refreshing moments with Bigo Cola.
This advert is FDA.
Yes, welcome back. This is Key Point here on TV3. We're live as well on 3FM 92.7. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. As I indicated before we went for that quick break, this week we got the latest court documents filed by the special prosecutor revealing a number of things. Take a look. First off, the details that there are several suspicious transactions running through the bank accounts and investments of Cecilia Dapada, the first respondent, and other transactions which cannot be attributed to her lawful income. It goes on to say that she was engaged in an undisclosed and undeclared real estate business in which she obscured and concealed the transactions by employing the use of aliases, that is, in other persons' names, to avoid detection of the actual ownership. In fact, in this particular case, it was at the point a house was sold, and it was at the point of the payment for the money for the house that the actual owner of the house was revealed. And then it goes on to say that an analysis of one of her bank accounts shows highly suspicious transactions involving the name of her deceased brother, Nana Akwesi Esan, who died in January 2022. Strangely, there are active transfers from the deceased brother, that the late Nana Akwesi Esan's bank account, to Cecilia Dapa's bank account. Now, she claimed that the $590,000 concealed in the residence was part of the $1 million the respondents had reported to the police as stolen from their premises. She also claimed that she owns an undisclosed and unidentifiable part of the sum of over $2.8 million retrieved from her residence. Some of it she described as sitting allowances and revenue from her cosmetic business, and that's Demarcare Cosmetics. And for those of you who have been watching this show, remember that the first time this matter came up, the Honorable Kokofu, Dr. Kokofu, who was here, mentioned an issue relating to that, and then Alfred Thompson as well, about their knowledge of Cecilia Dapa having a cosmetic business. Now, although she claimed that part of the cash sums discovered by the OSP was funeral donations, and for her husband, she has been unable to provide details. Her husband attributed ownership of the sum of $200,000 out of the dollar amount discovered by the OSP to one Akosia Dorcas Oredua, living in the United States of America. That's her husband's niece. The reasonable grounds that the cash sum seized from the residence of the respondents as suspected tainted property is also in there. Now, Lawyer Martin People, so I start off with you for good reason, because of the depth of knowledge and understanding that you have about how this case has played out over the period. It appeared that the OSP took your advice in the first instance of that mistake he made, the elementary mistake he made of not disclosing the details of the account that he sought to have the court give him the order to freeze. Now we know the details of the account. You know, it appears that there's now the stage for a showdown, as I indicated within a week.
Yes, yes. And you see that, yes, the showdown is really, showing down, right? Because now in the media space, you see that there's been a lot of excitement, a lot of, juicy facts that have been brought in, and it's making the discussion, very lively. And also, we're pushing the frontiers of our democracy. You see, so now with these further details, then it tells you that, hey, we've primed our minds for one and only one result. There has to be either a confiscation of the monies found or a prosecution. Because you see, we've always made the point that it's not always that you may be able to gather enough evidence to be able to prosecute. You see, but even if you don't succeed in prosecuting, at least with what the OSP has, chances are at least they'll be able to do confiscation proceedings in order to be able to confiscate all the money. After all, that's what even Article 286 Clause 4 provides, right? So, looking at it, what do I say again? As you write this stated, this time there are a lot of details. Yes, a lot, and that's why you've gone through.
So why were they sure that?
They were holding.
Why were they sure that initially?
That's the thing. So it's a learning curve. You know, in law, we always say that we are all learning. Yeah. So yes, it's all right. I mean, we are all learning. So hopefully going forward, because you see, the reason some of this happen, I'm not holding brief for the OSP. Me myself, I was asking for more information. But the point is that there is that tension between the privacy of the person and also the
public interest.
Yes. So there is that tension. Yes. So that they're saying that, look, why don't we keep as many of the stuff as private as possible until a decision is made to prosecute or not to? You see, so I mentioned earlier that when you look at the British laws, they even have volumes on the privacy rights. Yeah, so I respect what the OSP is trying to do, but see, because we are developing, and you know, there is hunger here. As Professor Nchi gave the example last week, where a certain man gives his wife chop money of 10 cedis. 10 cedis that you then will not be sufficient to buy you a snack. That's what somebody gives his wife for a whole day. Right? And the further context is that we have at least about 3 million of our citizens who are living on less than 24 Ghana cedis a day. So you see, with such a context, when you see such colossal sums of money in Madame Cecilia Dapa's house, and we are trying to talk about privacy rights, you see that sometimes it can be very annoying. The people down there won't understand, because then they see that all of their woes are due to what? President Kufuor and his ministers. And that's how come you listen to the ordinary people, and I support them. They say, why don't we search all the ministers? It's like you see, search all the ministers. That's a complaint. So take it. You know, OSP can do so much under the LI 2374. Yes, you listen. So you've been monitoring the radios and the TVs. People, Professor Jampo is here, Professor Nchi is here. We want all the ministers to be searched, because we've heard other stories. Some of them, 4 houses in East Legon. Others have put this money in polytanks. This thing of everybody has to come and lay a formal complaint. No, it won't work. Our history shows that lots of the time Ghanaians are timid. They don't like this thing that you are the one who reported this case against Esimesi. No, that's the thing. So please, as we are making the point, so I was developing
the point. But you had indicated that some whistleblowers had come to you with some information.
Yes, the East Legon string of 4 houses. So, and I've been saying that I want the NDA case to progress to its end before I start that, because when you start a case, you have to go into the OSP here and there, you have to go and testify. I had to go to Tamale to testify in the High Court. Other people have traveled down there to testify. So usually you want to see how one pans out before you go to another. But thankfully, the OSP has the right under the LI 2374 to do, by itself. So look, Mr. Kisei, we are saying that the money is with the ministers in their houses. Somebody mentioned this, and they've been saying it since last year. At the height of the this financial crisis, when we're crying, at the time we're going to do Kumi Preko, people were saying that Sikano or ministers, at that time I thought it was pedestrian.
And before the haircut.
Exactly.
Before the haircut.
I thought it was pedestrian, but with what we've seen,
on the basis of this, you want...
Yeah, so as to search all the ministers, search all of them in their houses, all the facilities they own and the rest. We will find more money. More. and that should be able to alleviate our this poverty. Because as I keep mentioning, look, farmers in the north and Honorable Brian Champo, please release the EU project, the one for the feasibility studies, the agricultural water project. And people in the north are waiting. They need that project so that the farmers can have more capacity to be able to farm throughout the year, etc. Right. So, Mr. Okansi, the point I've been developing for the past 2 minutes is that tension between privacy and the right of the people to know, the public interest to know, whilst investigations are ongoing, and then we linked it up with the way that our poverty is made the need to know more urgent. It's not like in the US and UK where people are full. Even if you don't have a job, you can go to what do you call it, the unemployed. You can go
get food stamps. There are food banks and stuff.
Food banks. You just walk in and they will give you food. In Accra here, where can you show me that you can just walk in? Yes, where can you just walk in and they will serve you food like that? You say so. Yes, privacy. Yes, but here it's become more urgent. So give us as much information so that we can lash them while the investigations are ongoing. So I'm sure the rest of the ministers, those with their money in the polytanks and the rest, will be getting scared. Yes. So in order not to sound like I've gone off your question, we're saying we should, you were talking about, because each time I want to go back to the question so I know that we're on track. You're talking about the information that has been given, and we are allowing the OSP for giving that much information this time, right? Though we would even expect more. Because, yes, OSP, you see, and let's analyze
what's going to be the next step?
Sorry?
I mean, after this, so then what next?
Yeah, so once the hearing will come on the, in October, sometimes the 3rd or 18th of October. So once the orders are given, yes, and it's good you said what next. It's a very critical question. I know even by the time the court will be hearing the matter, look, there is a certain timeline which we must all watch seriously. It says that for the confirmation of the seizure of the currency under Section 32, it says that when OSP seizes any money, it must bring charges within 60 days. It must bring charges within 60 days. Otherwise, return the money. So this is where we have to critically watch and give the OSP the support to be able to do that job. So the 60 days started from the time the money was re-confiscated. You get it? So the countdown is on. Can we get a specific date of the
60 days?
Yes, 60 days. So let's read it. Section 32 says this. 32 of the OSP Act. Yes, 32.
Yeah.
Today, it says, where the special prosecutor fails to prefer charges within 60 days after the seizure, the special prosecutor shall release the seized property to the person from whom it was seized. Where the special prosecutor fails to prefer charges within 60 days after the seizure, the special prosecutor shall release the seized property to the person from whom it was seized.
So charges been preferred?
Not yet. So they are still within the 60 days window. So the reconfiscation was done, was it somewhere around 4th of September?
Yes.
It was 4th, eh?
For around the 4th of September.
Yes, so we'll start. So it means that
and we are using the law to drag it so that it will be released back to the person?
No, I mean,
if you don't
what kind of law is this?
From the understanding that I get, the burden is on the OSP.
I know. I know, but I have my own submission. When it comes to me, I know what I'm going to say.
And it's good. It's good Professor Entry will be raising questions, because I always say that, look, some of us were too trusting. I like Mr. Kissie Jabin to a fault, and it's not good. So it's good you have
I never trusted him.
Yes, and then there's Professor Jampo here. Meanwhile, so you see the difference. You like IG to a fault. I am criticizing IG. I like Kissie Jabin. You are criticizing Kissie. So it makes
anyway, gentlemen, thank you. It goes beyond the liking. I think there's
the substance. Yeah, I'm holding him to account, but I also indicate the bias so that it also helps. So that every time. Yes. Okay. So the 60 days from 4th of September, rounded up. So citizens, what I'm saying is that we should support Mr. Jabio, because once the 60 days are going, my fear is that, you see, right now, with the information is provided,
he cannot continue to be in office to allow the 60 days to expire without charges.
Yes.
Let lawyer Martin Pebu conclude.
Yes.
Let him conclude.
Good.
So let him conclude.
So now that we are inching towards the 60 days, if it's not done, it means that he has to go for confiscation proceedings under the LI. So that's the one that I mentioned, that it means that they will apply that. So far, you see, Madame Dapa's story is not gelling. She says she had Demacare Cosmetics. The papers show that the company doesn't belong to her. She said she sold this in the company in 2003, right? At that time, we didn't have new Ghana cedis. You read the facts we are reading from. That time, we didn't have new Ghana cedis. And she said she had kept the money. Can you imagine, you were keeping money in 2003. It wasn't no old Ghana cedis. So how did the money in your room metamorphose into new Ghana cedis? Then she said she also owed the Demacare Enterprise. It showed that money, enterprise also belonged to a different person, Madame Adiok. And the first one belonged to Marian Ewua. So you see that so far, Madame Dapa's story is not gelling. Then she goes to say, the husband too says, oh, my niece brought $200,000.
Okay.
So, and that money is part of the money that was found in the house, the 1 million, the 800,000 this in the house, right? And so they asked the husband's niece, and now she's prevaricating. Yes, they asked how many times. She said she brought the money. Yeah, when you read from the fact, said she brought the money in cash. They say, how many trips did you make to Ghana? Now she can't tell. She's going quiet. Then Madame Dapa herself, and they're very interesting. Maybe we should read that particular
While you
fact.
round up, yes.
Yes, she said the $800,000 belonged to her brother, right? Initially, right? Then later, so the 800,000 that became the 1 million. She says that no. Now she's no longer talking. And let's not forget, the context is that the brother's widow had contacted lawyer Kusi, William Kusi, to sue. And William Kusi is on record.
Because he said the money belonged to her husband.
Exactly.
And the husband, she knew, had no money.
So now, then he said, Madame Dapa says, oh, she's no longer talking. You see, she's no longer talking in the further statement. So meaning she's running away from that statement that the money belonged to her brother. So it's been a comedy of false statements instead of a comedy of errors. And in actual fact, yes, part of it is a comedy of errors and a comedy of false statements. So far, the story is very clear that, look, Madame Dapa cannot defend this money that she had. She can't. She would have done so by now. And then the last point, you see the account. Mr. Okansi, when you read it, you see the account that initially we got information that was saying total volume of transactions, $5 million. And then another account, total volume of transactions, $48 million. See where the OSP is done. OSP, we want more details. But I see the short thing that they did. They rather showed that, oh, 350,000 was paid into it. Then another time, 300,000. Let me read it. It says, within a period of 5 months, precisely on 16 August 2022 and 25th January 2023, transfer by the first respondent from this account of the sums of 300,000 Ghana cedis and 350,000 Ghana cedis, totaling 650,000 cedis to sundry PO issued IFO Lands Commission account. So based upon this, then another one, it says on 19th April 2023, payment by the first respondent of the amount of 120,000 Ghana cedis into this account. Then there's another one on 19th May 2023, payment by the first respondent of the sum of 160,000 into this account. A copy of the bank statement of the first respondent on Prudential Bank CD account number, blah, blah, is attached and sealed, blah, blah. You see, so what I'm saying is I see that OSP is done just a few transactions, but we are most interested in the total volume of 48, because 48 million, that's why we energize the fight.
And that's what leads me to Professor Antwi, because in the end, you see, based on the details we have now, the burden is on the OSP to move within the period of 60 days as stipulated in the law.
That's for the seizure. So let me explain. The freezing is longer.
Alfred, politicians have a word called eclecticism, being smarter than smart. So when they feel that they are being caught, that's why all over the world, in US, in Europe, even in Ghana, they make friends with the pastors and the imams and that because they know that these guys can organize about 2,000, 3,000 people together. Then they can have access to those people and talk to. So that's how politicians work. I am sitting here, and there's a proverb from the north that says that if a poor man threatens you with a court suit, then he must be drunk. The law system was made for the rich, but not for the poor. And I've always been to the grounds advocating for the poor. If you see me in politics, it's because of justice for the poor. The poor is what I think about every day. When I see a poor person, I cry. When I brought my kids here from US and they saw children begging on the street, they started crying. They said, Daddy, why? Why will people allow their kids to do this on the street? And in the 21st century, we don't use this head to carry loads and sell. We use it to learn. So why are we doing this to ourselves? But I've watched a movie called Junkertown, you know, and I never know that we live in a ghost city where ghost accounts are making transactions. Meanwhile, we are talking about suspicious transactions from frozen accounts. Accounts that have been frozen, there are transactions that are going on, and those transactions are suspicious.
In this instance, let's establish, well, was that account frozen?
Well, all her accounts were frozen, right? All Cecilia Dapa's accounts were frozen.
Was it frozen? No, the frozen order wasn't granted.
Yes. So at that time but he has a point that the ghost is moving.
Yes, I have a point. Yes, yes.
But the freezing bit is what
yes,
I
so
at the time, it wasn't frozen.
It's been established that this account belongs to Nana Akwesi, the late deceased brother. But can a ghost sign an account? Let's ask ourselves, can a ghost sign an account? And who has been signing the account and then releasing the money to her? Those, the other in-law who has been coming from US, we know we have the Patriot Act. You cannot take more than $10,000 on you and travel from Ghana to the outside world. When you are caught at the airport, all the money will be confiscated. So that also borders on possible money laundering. See, so there are many parts of this issue that we're talking about. But the irony of our democracy is that, what are we getting into? You know, is it elitism? Are people not being honest? Because you go to court and say this, that all these belong to you, and then we find out that that is untruth. If you swear on oath and lie, what happens to you? Are you with me? What happens to you if you swear on oath to the court? And I see people doing that to the police officers and lying on their teeth. Why? Why are we doing that? So if you're a public servant, and this money that we are talking about, people have been arrested and they are going to court, we know that that proceeding is ongoing. Thief man is not thieving.
Thank you.
If we can find the source of this money, and it's been established by what the OSP is saying, because there was a story a woman told me, she works at the kitchen of a senior high school, and she stole one sardine, the beans, and some gari just for the children because they have no food to eat.
But it doesn't mean it's right.
I know. Yeah. That's definitely wrong. But I'm using that as an analogy. She stole that, and she admitted to me that she stole it. And then she hid it, you know, in the bushes close to the kitchen. That when she closes, she will pick it up because hunger of the children, she's got 5 kids, no husband. So she needed that to feed the gari and the beans and little shito to feed the kids. She goes in the bush when she closed in the afternoon and searched the whole area. It has been taken away. It means that somebody was watching her and has taken the food away. She stood there for a while. There was nothing she could do because who are you going to complain to? So she also left. I'm using this analogy to explain that if we cannot establish the source of this money, it means it was stolen. That is the fact. In fact, the fact.
Wait for the court to establish that.
There's a power in the word if. There's a power in if. That if we cannot determine the source of this, then where is it coming from? So if you cannot tell her the source and somebody stole it from you, that person is not a thief. Because we need to know that. So I've said it many times here. The truth hurts, but it heals. If you are a public servant and you can tell us the source of your income, and look at the money that he was listing, 160,000 Ghana cedis, that's 1.6 billion old money. If a public servant is sending 300,000, these huge sums of money to bank account, Prof, how much do we earn as professors? And we taught them, right?
I don't want to be okay,
indeed.
You see, Alfred, we cannot sit here and behave like ostriches. What is going on in our country, I call it the lack of what cultural consensus in nation's political culture. on scandals. And you can see that our leaders are supposed to model the way. If you're a leader, you model the way. And modeling the way means that you set a good example. So there's nothing wrong with our land. There's nothing wrong with our environment. There's nothing wrong with the people. It is lack of exemplary leadership that is killing us. Our leaders should set that example. And I'm not seeing that in Sisi Adapa's case.
Well, Professor Jampo, in fact, there's a very interesting type, very similar thing playing out in the U.S. In fact, the U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, if you follow international media, has been charged with bribery after wads of cash and gold bars were found in his home. Gold bars and cash. But if you read the case brief, the prosecutors are saying that the New Jersey senator was given a car after attempting to encourage the nomination of a U.S. attorney in the state that he could influence to drop charges against a business associate of his. But the law has caught up with him as well in there. With the details that we've seen from Adis, what has been made public as the court documents that the OSP is now filing to have the courts give him the order to freeze the monies retrieved from Sisi Adapa's residence and then her bank accounts as well. What, in your view, should be the way forward to ensure that the OSP gets the public trust and support in all of this? This particular
I'll come to what the way forward should be. But Martin, maybe because I just sent me this, that if the court confirms the freezing order, then the OSP has 12 months to bring charges.
No,
and
the
freezing order. The 60 days rule applies if the OSP merely seizes the assets and has no court order.
No. Yes, let's clarify. There are two. The seizure, meaning that the one you go and find physically. So you go into the person's house, then you find this Bugatti or any other car.
Cash. We're talking about cash.
And all
now.
those worth $8 million. Like you see some of the cars Jay-Z and those guys have. Jay-Z has one of the cars, $8 million. Other actors have those kind of cars. Then you say, how? $8 million car, I'm taking it, right? Then you see money, like this money that they've taken. So that's a seizure under Section 32. That's the one that, the things you physically taken, you could seize. You have 60 days. Then the freezing is Section 38. So he's right. So, but let's just get the freezing. That one is not within your hands. It's with the bank. So already it's not with you. It's with another institution. So you see why the lawmaker gave that one a longer thing. So let's see. Section 38.
So that's subject to the bank's own procedures as well.
Yeah, they'll keep it. And of course, we should, the Prudential Bank should be answering questions.
Yes.
How that dead person, the person was dead and the account was working.
A ghost signing checks.
To me something very,
active ghost account.
Okay. Yes. Prudential Bank should be answering questions there.
Do we live with ghosts in this country?
Professor Jampo is on.
All right.
Yes, Prof.
A
You
ghost
asked the
that
question.
is artificially intelligent. Well, in terms of the way forward, I think I'll come there. But you see, President Akufo-Addo is noted to prejudging cases that require investigation.
What do you mean?
He's noted. He has a penchant for prejudging, making prejudicial statements about cases that require or are going to be investigated. He was the first person to come out to make a certain statement that tacitly sort of exonerated this woman. Saying, I know that you go out and come out exonerated and all that. And I'm happy I was among the first Ghanaians to take him on and we told him that it was becoming one too many. To the extent that dead people are involved in monetary transactions, bank. I mean, the accounts will say firemen. They will do it to only us. I mean, doesn't make sense. But you see, the only honest and truthful statement that President Akufo-Addo has ever made in his political career, as far as I'm concerned, was that candid statement that yet the Sikaso Nanso accommodate. I think it's very true. It was true then, it is true now. That's the only statement that he's made. That, in my view, is so true. I mean, what is going on tells you that indeed we are sitting on money. Last time I said here that now it appears that your worth as a minister is judged by how much you have in your bedroom, not how much you have in your account, not how much you have in your offshore account. But how much? If you don't have a lot in your home, that means you are not even wealthy.
Yes.
So what is in your home determines or speaks to what is likely to be in your account or likely to be, in your bank account in other people's country. It is very sad that these things are going on. I'll come to the way forward, but it also tells me, when I was growing up as a student, one of my teachers told me why corruption leads to conflict in other countries, and why in some other countries, even though there is corruption, there is peace. Now, that makes me try to distinguish between what I refer to as greedy corruption and benevolent corruption. You see, what is happening now in Ghana is that there is so much greedy corruption. It's taking the money and keeping under the bed and chopping alone. But you go to other countries, even though there is corruption, the corruption is such that it actually stabilizes the system. Why? He steals and he knows how to give it out to the poor. I'm not saying there should be corruption, but trying to distinguish between greedy corruption and benevolent corruption. And countries...
Benevolent corruption?
Yeah, that
what
is...
that?
Well, he's stealing from the state, but he knows how to also distribute what he's stolen to those who do not have.
But in the eyes of the law, every corruption
Well,
is corruption.
I know. I'm not justified.
Okay.
I'm not saying one is better than the other.
Let's
They are all corruption.
Yes.
But I'm trying to distinguish between the two. One brings about chaos and confusion. One brings about high blood pressure when people hear of coups in other people's country. That's greedy corruption. When you sit and you preside over a country that is whose officials are greedily corrupt, anytime you hear of military intervention in politics in other people's country, then it sends shivers down your spine. So I know that our leaders are very uncomfortable hearing about coups in other countries. They are doing all they can to suppress even the discussion of this particular matter, but it wouldn't work. If you don't want, if you are afraid and if you are scared, then let us ensure that we put in place mechanisms. See, if I were Akufo-Addo, I would leave this to Ghanaians as my legacy. If it is possible, instruct the OSP or create the environment for the OSP
to search all your ministers,
to go on a swoop in the homes of our ministers.
That's leadership.
I would leave it as a legacy. Okay, so that tomorrow posterity will say that there was one president in Ghana's Fourth Republic who ordered a swoop into a swoop search into the homes of his appointees. Why? Because he said it openly to us that if people are looking for money, then they should go to the private sector. They shouldn't come into his government. But to see these huge sums of money, sometimes you are saddened by some of these revelations, and you ask yourself, so why did we, some of us, did we come to escort these people in the world? All this money, what do you need them for?
You don't.
What do you need them for? And so this is a sanitation minister's home. Sanitation. People are saying Bola minister's home. So can you think about other powerful cabinet ministers, what may be happening in their homes? I'm saying again, if I were Akufo-Addo, given the barrage of criticisms that you have suffered, President Akufo-Addo, I believe posterity, you see, will be kind to you if you should be able to encourage an intervention that would ensure a swoop search of the homes of your own ministers. If certain things are discovered, fire them before you go out of office, so that we will be able to say certain good things about you. Otherwise, as Professor Jemma-Buedi said long before we got here, Professor Jemma-Buedi said that as for President Akufo-Addo, his track record of dealing with corruption is already in tatters. Jemma-Buedi said that. Yeah. I said, but this man, what is he saying? Yeah. I think 2 years ago, he said that.
Before the 2020 election.
He said his track record for dealing with corruption is in tatters.
Yeah.
And
I was the founder of CDD?
Yeah, he was my teacher, he taught me. Okay, he said this, I said, hey, but this man is sure. But subsequently, some of these things happening, and the fact that the president is always in a hurry to clear people
But he says he uses the process of the law, and that he as a person can clear.
No,
that
but the point
he allows the institutions to investigate.
The president is not ignorant about the power in his utterances as a chief executive of the country, the executive president, somebody I refer to as a political king Kong. You cannot underestimate the potency of your public utterances and their effect on duty bearers when it comes to some of these investigations. So the moment, I mean, why won't you just keep quiet and allow the processes to go on? When they are brought to you, then you carry out the implementable, aspect of whatever investigations that may have been undertaken. But you come and make some of these statements, and very soon we will find out that dead, artificially intelligent ghosts are transferring monies into live account, and you see this, and then you are telling us that the woman is going to be resurrected.
Okay.
In terms of the way forward,
please, Dr. Jampo is rounding up. Please.
In terms of the way forward, I think we should allow the law to take its course. If Kwesi Ejaben has 60 days to bring charges against the woman, I want to believe. You see, the way I am fired up to take him on, I want to believe that he will acquit himself. But you see, we warn him that we would never forgive him if he allows the expiration of these 60 days to take place without preferring charges against him, against the woman. And then so tomorrow we are told that the woman there were no charges preferred, and so the monies have been returned to her, and the matter has died. I mean, we would never forgive him. He should know. Okay. Some of us, I mean, some of his friends oftentimes will call us behind the scenes and ask whether we have personal issues, where we have personal disagreement. No, we don't. We don't. He was my mate. We are all in the Kwafo S block. We don't. We did some of the courses, apart from law, we did courses together. I don't hate him, but the point is this. If you are given a role of a duty bearer and you are a young person, okay, people expect, and I expect that you go and effect changes to the status quo. Clearly, you see apart from some of his utterances that I thought were unnecessary, arrogating to yourself the power, the role of the conscience of the nation, I thought it was absolutely unnecessary. Apart from that, I think clearly he is showing a certain exuberance for Ghanaians to know that he wants to work. And let that exuberance be sustained, and let it be within the confines of the laws of the country, and let him ensure that some of these investigations are undertaken and carried out to their logical conclusion without disappointment. If we get this, if he disappoints us, we will not spare him.
Thank you. Hello, you see, in this in a minute, because I want to run up and move to the next issue, which is very, very important as well.
I think
the bank in question, and the fact that this particular account was in the name of the deceased brother. It's two things. Could it just be the case that the deceased brother is not really the owner of the bank account? Yes. And if that happens, the bank should be answering questions, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the way it sounds, that's what we say. So we are calling OSP. Maybe by all means, yes, we want to get information, because I know it to be OSP would have seen it. As soon as you see that particular thing, the first thing is that the bank must know about this. Yes, I mean, it's
because it's in the name of the deceased.
Yes, it's a reasonable.
At what point can someone access a deceased person's account?
Yes, and the thing says what? Kweku is son, the second. Kweku is son. So what business does so are they saying that Madame Dapa goes to write the name Kweku is son? Hey, then that means that will be forgery. So you see where the thing is leading to? Yeah, so the bank has to answer, and I'm sure by now OSP is doing it. And we want to hear, because if Madame Dapa went to write those accounts, if she was transferring money, blah, 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 then if she wrote Kweku Esan, she's not Kweku Esan. So we'll be looking in the direction of forgery. So really, we'll be looking for it. We'll note it down and ask more questions that where did the investigations lead to? Is the bank saying that they didn't know it was an error? Then it means that their systems are lax, or they knew. Then in that case, they will be complicit. So either of them. But it just can't go away. It can't go away because it's been established that the brother died sometime in 2022, right?
Okay.
And so it just couldn't happen that they could continue, Madame Dapaah could operate that account whilst the brother was dead. So either negligence or being actively complicit, and we'll be looking forward to receiving more information on that particular aspect of the investigations. Yes.
Okay. So, but what about if in the case of there's a letter of administration, an LA, for that matter?
Excellent.
And would that mandate or give the in this case legitimize the transaction of monies between this deceased person's account and Cecilia Dapaah?
Excellent. So that's why, no, the last part, will that mandate that?
Would that legitimize that they said questionable transactions between the two accounts?
Excellent. That's how come the OSP says that there is no LA. So let's explain a bit. Under our law, there's the Interstate Succession Law, PNDC Law 111, and also before it, there were various other provisions. But it is that under that law, if somebody dies and leaves even a pin, I mean, that's literally just even a pin, the relations, whether sons, daughters, etc., are not supposed to just naturally take it and begin to use as their own. You have to go to court for authorization. That is what is called the letters for administration, right? Then also, if the person were to leave behind a will, you go to court also for authorization so that the will now is read, and then the judge will give orders that the executors, that's those appointed to take care of the estate. The estate is the property the person is left behind and to distribute. Yeah, so you go to court for probate. That's what we call it. So to just make it simple, we are saying that if somebody dies, whether with a will or no will, before you take hold of any property and use or give it to the children, etc., even paying their school fees, it doesn't matter how genuine your intentions, it's against the law if you haven't sought authorization from the court. So OSP in the leaked document is saying that there is no evidence of an LA or probate. So you see that Madame Dapaah is in trouble on that score.
So was there any establishment of the fact that someone or one person has been elected to, for instance, receive specific orders, like a standing order, for instance, that when the money hits the account, it is transferred to a particular account? Is that established in the documents that you have?
No, I think maybe I missed that side. No. So even if it's a standing order, so the ultimate answer is that even if it's a standing order, when the person dies, it ceases.
Right.
Yeah, it ceases. So OSP is saying he hasn't seen any further evidence. Even if the person gives a standing order on his death, the instruction ceases. And then you have to do the LAs and then come and give new instructions. Yes, because
so there's no evidence of is the LA that would then lead to all of these.
Excellent. And they're saying that there is no such LA.
Okay.
Once there's no such, and natural fellow, let me even say, yes, it appears even yes, I think William Kusi, Madam, the deceased brother's lawyer, they were now applying for LA.
I see.
Now, yes, I think the time he came up, it's on Ghana Web. When you read, yes, that's how he was contacted. So it just came timely. That's how come they said, oh, then they should add it to the LA application.
Okay. Thank you. Lawyer Martin Kpebu, this just came through from a lawyer who is also watching us. Kwame Asante says, Caesar order is different from freezing order as earlier stated by Martin Kpebu. Freezing orders are in respect of bank accounts. The Caesar is in respect of all other assets. In terms of Caesar, the OSP has 60 days after a Caesar order to prefer charges. But in respect of the freezing order, the OSP has within 12 months. So that's what Professor Kukoza was talking to you about. So that's the difference between the two. Now, the coming days, it will be very interesting to watch, and that's what Lawyer Martin Kpebu said earlier, of what next after this court document that we have seen details of by the OSP. This is Key Point here on TV3. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I take notice of all the comments and the messages as well, a number of which have been formed into some of the questions I've been asking. But President Akufo-Addo has demanded for the payment of reparations for the countries affected by the transatlantic slave trade. In fact, according to the president, no amount of money will ever make up for the horrors, but it will make the point that evil was perpetrated and that millions of productive Africans were snatched from the embrace of our continent. This was part of a statement at the UN General Assembly, which ended a couple of days ago. Take a look.
Acknowledge openly that much of Europe and the United States have been built from the vast wealth harvested from the sweat, tears, blood, and horrors of the transatlantic slave trade and the centuries of colonial exploitation. Maybe we should also admit that it cannot be easy to build confident and prosperous societies from nations that for centuries have their natural resources looted and their peoples traded as commodities. For centuries, the world has been unwilling and unable to confront the realities of the consequences of the slave trade. But gradually, this is changing, and it is time to bring the subject of reparations firmly to the fore.
So that's President Akufo-Addo there. So the context of these monies being asked for is the impact of slavery on the many, many, many Africans, and the fact that this call, supported by a number of the leaders on the continent, as a matter of fact, should be paid. This is not the first time he's making this statement, Professor Jampo. This is about the fourth time from our count last night that this should be done. And this time he said it at the 78th session of the United Nations.
Thank you. The call for reparation is very ancient and old. How did we get to this particular point of trying to make such call? During the Industrial Revolution, many new crops had been developed: tobacco, sugarcane, etc., etc., and people were needed to work on the plantation. The whites were not deemed to be that strong and tough to be able to, and rugged, to be able to provide the kind of manual labor to work in cultivating the land for these new crops to be developed to power the Industrial Revolution. And so they looked to Africa, where they saw that we were built, we were the macho type. We had the energy, we had the zeal, we had the strength to be able to provide that kind of manual labor that would help the cultivation of the land and the new crops to power the Industrial Revolution. And so that's the genesis of this whole idea of slave trade. They came to Africa, but take note, I mean, when they came to Africa, the various areas where they could get the slaves, we ourselves directed them to places where they could get the slaves. Yeah. And then also, there was this idea of panyaring. Panyaring simply means mortgaging human beings in exchange of debts that you owe. So if you have a very stubborn child and you cannot control, you just sold that child into slavery to cancel your debt. There were so many means through which slavery came about. So some people also had gained notoriety for raiding villages, going to fight and then capturing people as slaves. But whatever the case may be, you cannot talk about slavery without the connivance of our own people. Our chiefs, our local people directed where slaves could be found, and some of our own people also participated in the whole idea of fomenting conflict with a view to capturing people as slaves. Yes, they took our able-bodied men. I teach this course in a course called Strategies for African Development. Okay, and we discuss reparation. But I would have loved President Akufo-Addo in my class to observe the comments of my students after we've discussed reparation.
What did they say?
I'll come to that. So they took away our able-bodied men and women and left the feeble. I mean, I always use this as an example that the way they raided and depopulated our population, it's if you want to have a sense of how they depopulated us, you go to the villages. You know, there are certain villages in Ghana where you would see many human beings, able-bodied men and women, only over the weekend when you have funerals. But in the weekdays, everybody has come to Accra. So you see children living with their grandparents. That's how they left us. Depopulated us, took away our able-bodied men and women, you know, to the Americas, to Europe, to go and develop, you know, there. Subsequently, we have said that, because they stripped us of our human resources who would have provided labor for us to develop, then they should pay us a certain compensation now that they are developed and we are still not developed. So they should pay us a certain compensation in a form of money or whatever. So that's the whole idea of reparation. So trying to blame what they did to us and using that as a case to make demand that they should then pay us something. You see, if you look at it superficially, it is a good call, because reparation will bring us enough money. But after saying this, having discussed other strategies for African development from Kwame Nkrumah's independence to now, and having dissected and analyzed them well to know how they failed, I asked my students, do you think that the call for reparation is justified? Okay, and then the students are able to look at all the kinds of things that have happened to Ghanaians since independence to date, and they are able to unanimously dismiss the idea or call for reparation. Why? We are a nation that is noted for fetching water with baskets. So reparation, so that they give us money and Sisi Adapa will go and hide under her bed. I mean, please, until we block all the leakages and slippages, until we show the political will to deal with corruption, until we demonstrate to our people that we are willing to govern well, the call for reparation would remain a wishful thinking or a wishful call for leaders who have nothing to say when they get to the international community. Right. If President Akufo-Addo is interested in reparation, let him begin to do his homework. Let him ensure that the leakages and slippages. The last time I asked, when they were trying to increase taxations on so many, I asked what they were using the money for, and people were insulting me. They didn't understand. I was trying to say that if you tax all of us and you put the money in a basket, okay, the money becomes like water that you put in a basket. It will leak into other people. So reparation under the current dispensation or under current happenings in Ghana is a call aimed at making people in government rich and further impoverishing the lives of the people, because we have a lot of resources, evidence abound to show. If you look at oil wells and all that, at the time President Akufo-Addo and his people took over, we had a lot of resources.
They got more.
Okay, they got more. So you need that money to do what? I'm telling other countries that we are making such demands to, that look, if they would heed to those demands, they should first ensure that we sealed all the avenues for leakages and slippages. That's number one. Number two, such interventions can also come in the form of kind gestures, through technological transfer, through other interventions that would not directly give monies to the government, okay, but it will come in the form of investments in Africa. But if it's about money, then we will continue to have these leakages and slippages, and these monies will get into other private people's pockets. And so the idea of making that international call without first ensuring that the sources of leakages and slippages have been sealed is nauseating, and it doesn't make sense to me. So, President Akufo-Addo, please, it is not just about making that call to be to be seen as a hero and to be hailed. We understand what is going on in our country. We've had a lot of money, but these monies have not improved the physical quality of lives of the ordinary citizenry. They have rather made your appointees and other party apparatchiks rich at the expense of the ordinary people. And so don't talk about the call for reparation now.
Well, by the end, the reason why the special prosecutor is even investigating this Lee Adepa case is to establish whether it is money belonging to the state or otherwise. So as we speak, we cannot say that it is state money in there. But Professor Entry,
person doing to be able to have that kind.
Yes, and that's why it's a subject of investigation.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put it on record.
No problem. But like we have made a call that there should be a swoop into the whole.
But it just has to be established.
We will see. Okay. So
yes.
The idea of reparation is meaningless until we first put in place interventions that will seal the sources and holes for the leakages and slippages
in the system to be addressed.
Okay. Aristotle said that it is the hallmark of an educated person to entertain a thought without accepting it. So we in academia, we entertain thoughts, and that is important. You know, we should stop, let's pull ourselves up and stop looking for handouts. That is exactly what our leaders are doing. When President Akufo-Addo went to the UN conference, there were protests against him by Ghanaians there in New York. And they were talking about stop using our money. We have bad roads, we have terrible schools, we have bad health, and stop using our money on the National Cathedral. That is what the protesters said. Did he listen? No. He was looking for that. But if you look at, as Rajampo said, this reparation and slave trade, we sold our own people to them. We were stakeholders in selling our own. In fact, last week I was at Legon, the Institute of Languages. We had Pan-African event, and yes. I was one of the moderators. And they were talking about African Americans who have even come here to invest money. Some 1 million. If you have a partner in Ghana, it's 500,000. That's what the law says. And these people have duped them. Our own brothers and sisters who have come home to help, we have duped them. One told me that somebody sent her to the north to kill her. You see? So we are all part of what we are doing. When researchers and professors talk, I don't know why people must listen to us. We are part of this. So I saw a Pew study, research in US, and this is what they are saying. They are saying that 2/3 of whites in America are saying that, no, we cannot repair, anybody, we can't give anybody money. And then, that was just this March 2023. 2/3 of them, of whites, oppose reparations. A majority of Latinos and Asian Americans said that, no, we can't give money. And these are their reasons too. They said this generation cannot pay for what was done in the past. So they are saying that they had nothing to do with slavery, and they are not going to work. Americans bust their ass off working 12 hours every day. And then they cannot use their money to pay for what happened in the past. They are not part of it. And they also say that we are all immigrants at some point, whether it was voluntary or forced. No. So these are the two reasons. Yes, go ahead.
No, so you read a statement.
Yes.
Quoting
the Pew study 2023.
The Pew study 2023.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just looking at.
So two reasons that they gave. They said that this generation can't pay for what was done in the past, and then the second one was that we are all immigrants at some point, whether it was voluntary or forced. So if you go to America, apart from the Native Indians, everybody is an immigrant. Nobody was born there. So they are saying that they cannot pay any reparation for something that was done not in their time, but in the past. So the call, I know that even hard work breaks curses. When we work hard with all the plethora of resources in the bellies of our land, Alfred, this Atlantic Ocean here, we fly from it straight to New York. It's 10 hours. But look at the tsunamis, and the hurricanes, almost 34 times a year in America. The same sea is here doing nothing to us. God has been so charitable to us. The basket of wealth, natural resources, all of them are here. You remember our history, we have chiefs who were sleeping on golden beds. Do you remember that? That we have had resources and we don't know what to use with them. Now, as I speak, American population is 339 million, which is 4% of the world population. But out of the 8 billion population in the world, America consumed 1/5, 20% of the world resources. Where do you think they get their resources from? They need other countries to survive. But go to the ministries, our ministries, and see that development partners, UNICEF, IMF, World Bank, are even paying for education and health. And Everything is being done by them because the Ghana government money that is supposed to come to the ministries, the budget to be released to work, is not there. So the question is, and look at how horrible our roads are. Everywhere, roads are terrible. So do we have governance in this country? You know, and you are going for money. When they give you money, every day we go to the IMF, we go to the World Bank, what do we use the money for? So if you are trying to get some handout thinking that it's going to solve your problem, that is not how governance is done. We have resources within. Remember when Magufuli came in Tanzania, he stopped all, you know, independence anniversaries. And every year, the money he was saving, he was building dormitories, schools, and health facilities. Are we still not celebrating 6 March? This year, were we not at home for 6 March celebration? You know people that collapsed there, just imagine so that the president will come and wave hands and then give a speech.
But you see, the president
we are wasteful. We are a wasteful country. No matter the money they give to us, we waste it.
President, the president in his statement acknowledges that no amount of money will ever make up for the horrors, which is relatable to the details of the study that you just read in summary. But the point he makes is that it would make a clear statement that evil was perpetrated and that millions of productive Africans were snatched from the embrace of our continent.
Alfred, nobody's denying that fact. When you go, I stayed in Cape Coast. I stood at University of Cape Coast. When you go to the point of no return and then see what people go through, that small building that they were all packed in like sardines, going through that. If you go to Trinidad and Tobago, they all know that they are from Ghana. Trinidad and Tobago, when people are crossing the road, they say Shaho, they don't know it's our language. You know, all of them, Trinidad and Tobago, know that they are from Ghana, so it has done a lot of things to us. Do you know when our brothers were sent there, they were sold like garage sales, they were cleaned and sold as products. So our people have gone through a lot. Nobody would deny that fact. But I'm telling you that, no, the return, we asked for them to return. And how we have treated them, now we are thinking about beyond the return. Even when those who return with the money, where is the money? So let's do our homework and stop looking for handouts. You see, that's what I'm asking. Okay. No matter the money that they will give to us, and when you look at surveys, American survey work, because you write a simple letter to your governor or your mayor that we want this done, they do it. That's what leadership is about. They have surveyed their people, and people have done that study, that they are saying that they cannot pay for slavery that they were not part of. The current generation is working. They can't do that. So let's stop looking for handouts, and the resources that we have and those that we are getting from them now, from the IMF and the World Bank and all those institutions, let's use that prudently.
In fact, if you read the president's full speech, he responds to one point that, and I'm going to come to you, but Professor Ntwi, that study that you read, that were responding to some of the surveys that the current crop of Americans say, look, we are working so much, we can't pay for the sins of our forefathers, the previous generations. The president stated during the 78th UN General Assembly, quote, granted that current generations are not the ones that engage in the slave trade, but that grand inhumane enterprise was state-sponsored and deliberate, and its benefits are clearly interwoven with the present-day economic architecture of the nations that designed and executed it.
Alfred,
where's the lie in this? Where's the lie in this?
Logic doesn't work that way. If the premise is weak, the conclusion will be false. You are granting that the current generation did not contribute to the slavery, and you are asking them to come and pay for it. It's just like what the Bible said, that your forefathers are eating what? Sour grapes, grapes or whatever, and then you are suffering for it. The sins of my father, I cannot pay for it.
Oh,
because I know, but that's wrong. Technically, that's wrong because I wasn't privy to his decision making. Other than that, God cannot judge me because judgment is free.
You've lived in the US.
The premise of the president argument is that granted that the current generation did not take part in the slavery, but you know, he thinks that compensation will heal the wounds. That is his argument. It is a fair argument, but it should not fly in logic.
You say it's a fair argument.
It is a fair
argument.
But
I moved it to the next stage of a response to the summary of the survey details that you read.
Yes.
And you cannot, because you've lived in the US for quite a while, right?
20 years.
20 years. So you cannot also take away the reality that indeed the present day economic architecture of these nations that designed and executed it also have a clear evidence of some benefits of what was done in the past, is it not?
I think that would be difficult to prove because we have disparate treatment.
You think so?
We have disparate treatment even in America. You know, racism hitting institutions and all that. So blacks continue to suffer, you know, from this slavery thing. I give one example that I have a family that one is black, one is a Negro. Their birth certificates are a Negro, black, African American, and then, you know, so you have one generation that are given different names in America. Even to be a citizen in America, you write 100 questions. They give you 100 questions to answer. And one of the questions is which people came here as slaves? And the answer is black. I try to sue that it is wrong to put that in institutions, that which people came here as slaves, because everybody came to America differently from different places. But the point here is that you want a compensation, a handout from this generation talking about 400 years of slavery. And they are telling you that the average American lives up to 90 years and they are gone. You are telling me that about 4 or 5 generations ago, what happened, I have to come and work and pay. And that's what the current generation is saying, that we are not going to pay. An American government will never use their money to pay an African government because the African president is demanding that money when the citizens are saying that no, because there they listen to the citizens.
Okay. Like Martin Bebo, I bring you in. You see, well, at least I've had the opportunity of being part of a US-sponsored program. You see, this Mandela Washington Fellowship. So I understand the demands for reparation and the U.S. itself accepting the fact that there is the need for some level of support in many ways. And that's what comes back to what Professor Jampo was saying, that these monies can come back to the continent or the countries that, you know, slaves were taken from in different forms. By supporting young people to go there on the, you know, the full sponsorship or scholarship of the U.S. government to go and study and come back, you know, to contribute to the development of a nation in many ways. And then this Mandela Fellowship is one of many exchange programs that the U.S. Embassy, for instance, in Ghana is running, right? But then you cannot also take away the underlying concerns that, you know, the president is raising in this matter, is it not? Taking into consideration what is happening in the country as well.
Yes, good. So you see how viewers today, at least President Kufuor says something that touches my heart. So we'll be positive a bit, though we'll be tying in what Professor Jampo said and Professor Ntwi. So usually it's the topical. The reason I've said so, Mr. Okanse, is that I still get people still pulling at this Oman Panther. Please let us let it rest. From time to time there will be analogies. So it wasn't meant as an insult. It wasn't meant as an insult. These are arguments has to go. The politicians, they are tough-skinned though. They are not playing gentle. So if you just come and say, he's incompetent, oh, you think they will listen to you? But you didn't mean it as an insult. Sometimes you have to ratchet up the conversation. But I didn't mean it as an insult at all. No, I don't. Why would I insult the president? Oh, he's my president. That's not it. When he used this in Dr. Doolittle against Mills.
Professor Doolittle.
Yeah, Professor Doolittle. Do you know what Doolittle means? Please Google it. Doolittle was mad. He was talking to animals. Yes. So, who did anything to him?
It's all well and good.
So I don't mean it as an insult. Please let this thing stop. You can't gag us. You can't. We'll have to. Public, look, this New York Times versus O'Sullivan. Public debates must be robust, candid, and fair. Right. A man is not using your resources well if we say, oh, he doesn't listen like a man.
I thought you were actually going to go on the process.
So I'm coming to show the good point. No, it's because
yes, I get the point. I understand.
So please,
I think we've just even
I've not insulted President Kufuor. He's my good friend. Look, nobody loved the Kufuor more than me.
I think you've said that. You said that a number of times on this platform. So
like the man is not doing
okay. So okay, thank you. Please.
Exactly. Please let this thing lie. Let's make progress. That song. So why didn't you ban the song? You know the musician who sang the Oman Pam song. Why didn't Kufuor and his school
let's make progress? Yes. Let's make progress, gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So now let's go into this. See how the U.S. benefited directly from slavery. A number of fronts. You find even constitutional provisions benefiting from slavery, and then also there's a Slavery Fugitive Act. So I'll read 2 portions. It says, look, the federal government benefited directly from slavery. The government played a direct role in maintaining slavery and also reaped immediate benefits from it. Under the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793 and 1850, U.S. Marshals, so like soldiers, were mandated to recover slaves who had escaped and return them to enslavement. So when you return him, he's not still working for the master, so that then you take your taxes. Then go to the Constitution. Listen to their Constitution. It says, when the Constitution was signed into law in 1787, it included language that permitted the government to collect taxes on people trafficked to America via the transatlantic slave trade, permitting a tax of not exceeding $10 for each person.
$10?
Yeah, $10.
Wow.
Oh, you go to U.S. history, I've been following it. It's there. So the Federal Reserve benefited, the U.S. government benefited directly. The one Alexander Hamilton, you know,
Yes,
the U.S.,
yes.
when you see their Federal Reserve, it was Hamilton. Hamilton wasn't even a U.S. Citizen. He was from the Caribbean. Some call him, one of them called the Creole bastard. American Caribbean. But look, so you see the U.S. Federal Reserve System. It was created by an immigrant. Hamilton, of course, he was powerful there. He married into some powerful families there. And he was a lawyer, of course. I'm happy to know that he was a lawyer who created, he wasn't an economist. Like today, sometimes when you come to Ghana, you are talking economics, and I say, oh, but you are only a lawyer.
A lawyer.
Check. You know,
Indeed.
Hamilton was a lawyer. He wasn't an economist, right? And a lot that he did. So today, you see the U.S. Financial system, a lot of it is traced back to Hamilton.
Best, you know, economists we've had in this country are actually lawyers in most cases.
Yeah.
I mean, the late Kwesi Botchie and all of that.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you see, so the U.S. government benefited directly, and so we have to support the cause. And you know, apart from the U.S. government, even Yale University, yeah, they've done some reparations. Set up a huge endowment to give scholarships to blacks because they found out that the people who helped set up Yale had used money from slavery. The cotton and I think even Harvard, some of the foundation money was out of the slave labor. You see, so as for reparations, no, they can't run away from it. Listen, it's been long coming. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah,
and when you read this book,
it should be in investment. It shouldn't.
Yes, I support you. That's why I said it.
The form in which it comes is what Professor Jambo is talking about. So that in the instance of, for instance, some of us who studied on a full scholarship in universities in the U.S.
Yes.
That it should come in that form.
How would you
but then again,
at many universities, individuals are donating.
But so you don't want it to come to the government.
It should come.
All right.
They can come and supervise.
Thank you.
So they can come and supervise. That one I agree. If we don't let them come and supervise, it will end up in Cecilia Dapa's house.
But we can't. At least now there's a court process to establish the source of the money. So yes, just to put it on record.
Yes.
Okay. So okay. All right.
So you see,
lawyer.
Okay. Let me wrap up 1 minute. Yes. So he says, look at this book, Kojo Koram, on Commonwealth, right? Britain and the aftermath of empire. So when you go to page 138, you see the thing about these Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, etc. And I've been reading constantly from this book. It says, the Bretton Woods system was meant to stop nations falling too far into debt. But by the time the Third World Debt Crisis arose, the collapsed system wasn't an obstacle to global capital. And the IMF and World Bank no longer fear the consequences of keeping a nation state chained by international debt. Then you go on and on and on. So the point I'm making is that 1978, when you read other parts, this Prime Minister Manley of Jamaica led the onslaught that we should have a new international economic order. And then you see that the next page, you see Thatcher and Reagan said, no, they will not form the UN bank. So there were efforts to form the UN bank, and Thatcher and Reagan shut it down, right? So the point I'm making, the UN bank was supposed to lend at better rates than the current IMF. So the point is that this system, the way they enslaved us, and then finally you set up a UN system, Bretton Woods institution, to make sure that we don't fall into debt. But today, IMF itself is chained us down, pinned us to the neck, and is killing us. No, it can't survive. So it will be good that we have the reparations, then we can pay back the IMF debt, etc. Right? So I support President Kufuor on it. That one, yes.
See, Lawyer Kakari says, after the Second World War, the German government paid massive reparations to the state of Israel for the Holocaust.
Yeah. Yes, I support. Yes. Yes, what that, and even apart from
5 million people in the gas chamber, that's a difference.
Yeah, even apart from that one, even from World War I, you know the thing that caused the crisis 1929 onwards. After World War I, you know, Germany still had debts to pay, and then as the crisis before it became a big crisis, what happens is I see that the American banks stopped lending to Germany. Okay, and once they stopped lending, that means that Germany couldn't pay its war debts, and led to that vicious cycle and the Great Depression.
Yeah.
So the Great Depression affected much of the world, the U.S., Europe. You see. So the point I'm making is that as for having paid reparations, they didn't just pay to Israel alone. They were paying other countries as well. Germany is paying a lot.
Quick submission, Alfred.
Yes.
The generation of these blacks, they are still alive. So you have Smith, Junior, Smith Junior 2, 3, they are all alive. Those whose parents came there to work, they can trace their roots.
Right.
Because we have Ancestors.com where these African Americans are tracing back their roots to where they come from. They also need that compensation. They need reparation.
Right.
See,
Thank you.
The ancestors are not dead yet.
Right.
They are still there. They also need reparation. But we are looking for it because we collaborated with the slave masters and sold our own people.
Thank you.
That is laughable.
I appreciate it.
So reparation will be good. Insofar as we'll be able to know how to use the money.
Okay.
But generally, see, we cannot trust ourselves with money as a people, and so let it come in the form of investment. Otherwise, the call for it in the way a manner some people are expecting it, if it doesn't make sense to me. Okay. We would steal the money, and the money would leak into people's homes and into people's offshore accounts.
All right, thank you. The gentlemen, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. And Professor Enoch Opoku-Antwi is a governance and leadership expert, and then also is the Dean of Business and Communications at the Academic City University. Appreciate the time. Thank you. Martin Pebble is private legal practitioner. He is the convener of the Kumipreko Reloaded demonstration, and then also a leader of one of two individual bondholder groups. And then also Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon. I also had earlier Bobby Bansing, private legal practitioner and a lecturer at the University of Ghana Law School. Also, we had Professor Kojo Apieje Etia, who is a professor of law at the University of Ghana School of Law. I thank you all so much for staying with us here on Key Point. Enjoy the weekend. On behalf of the production team led by Ato Kwamena Hazel, and also the production by Harriet Asumda, director, Mavis Asari and Andani, all the cameramen here, want to say thank you so much for joining us. I am Alfred Akonse. Have a great weekend.
This program is rated U. It contains no scene, action, or